Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto Gremory stops Rias engagement part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Okan-san, said a small girl about 4 years old as she looked at her mother who was sitting in a chair as she watched her beautiful daughter run towards her. Yes, Rias-chan, what happens? She asked as she looked at her little daughter. The girl was embedded in her mother's arms while looking into her eyes. Oka-san, Oni-san is being mean to me again, she said as she looked away from her mother to her named brother. Both women saw a red-haired boy of the same age as the girl. The boy had long hair tied in a small ponytail. The woman looked at her second son, who was the older of the two, with a smile on her face. XXXX-kun, why are you bothering Rias-chan? What have I said about bothering your younger sister, a young man? Said the woman while pretending to be upset with the boy, which was impossible for her. She could never be bothered with none of her children since she loved them too much for that. The boy stood in front of his mother and his sister. He looked at both of them with his light blue eyes, different from his sister who had blue-green eyes. I did not do anything to upset Rias, Oka-san, she's just lying. Rias shook her head as she looked at her brother. That's a lie, Oka-san. The one who is lying is the one, she said while sticking her tongue out at her older brother. The woman only smiled at the behavior of her younger children, which was common for them. Quiet, Rias-chan, and tell me what it is that XXXX-kun is bothering you, she said with a beautiful smile on her face. The girl nodded as she looked at her mother. Oni-san said that he did not want to marry me when he is big. He says that because we are brothers we cannot get married when we are older, she said as she made a small pout in her. The boy saw how her sister's cheeks they inflated and made her look like a small tomato. The red-haired baron knew that if he told his sister that he looked like a tomato while making that pot, he would be chased by her while trying to destroy him with his power of destruction. Is that true, XXXX-kun? You said that to your sister, she asked while her eldest son nodded. Yes, Oka-san, I said that to Rias, the redhead said as he crossed his arms. She must understand that we are both brothers and that could not happen. His mother just smiled as she looked at him. At the young age of 4 years the redhead was a very intelligent and powerful boy. She could say with certainty that there was not a child of the age of his son who exceeded it in strength and intelligence. XXXX-kun, you must understand that we are demons. For our society it is not uncommon for members of the same family to get tired among themselves. In fact, many demons do it to keep the blood of their family pure. In addition, there are only a few demons who see this type of relationship as forbidden, said the woman, making the girl smile. Once, Oni-san, we can get married and nobody would say anything. Or maybe you do not love me, he said as he put a sad face. His blue-green eyes were a little watery, giving signal to the redhead that she was about to cry. The redhead's eyes opened when he saw the sad look on his sister's face. He never liked to see his sad sister. He always did everything possible to see his sister happy and smiling. He always protected her from anyone who tried to bother or offend her. He always ended up hitting someone just because he thought they had seen his sister wrong. No, Rias, I love you very much and I do not want to see you sad, so do not be it. Please smile, he said quickly. Rias's gaze changed quickly. A mischievous smile appeared on her face. Coming out of her mother's arms, she ran and hugged her brother tightly. See, I knew you loved me, Oni-san, so why cannot we get married? And Aka-san said it's possible. The redhead just sighed as he was embraced by his sister. He knew it would be impossible to uncover with her about that. The truth is that he not only wanted her as a sister, he loved her much more than a sister, but he would not admit it because he knew that many demons would make fun of him, which he could bear. But he would not bear that someone makes fun of his sister or any member of his family. He knew that many demons like to make fun of the demons that married between family. They have the mania to make fun of them, calling them aberrations, incestuous, and among other things. There was a time that he discovered a group of children making fun of his sister because they heard her say that she would marry him. After he finished with them, they all needed help to be able to walk back home. But no one dared to do anything against his or her sister for fear of their father, or even worse, to their older brother. The woman was smiling as she watched her youngest daughter hug her brother. She knew that her son cared a lot about her sister and that he did not say all that seriously. The smile disappeared slowly when she remembered that even if her children love each other more than brothers, that was something that could not happen. Not with the arranged commitment that both had with members of different families. Families that will do almost everything possible to see how both commitments are fulfilled. But of the two commitments, the one that gave her the most pain and the one that most filled her with anger was the commitment of her daughter because of the person with whom she had to get married. 10 years later, a teenage boy of about 14 was walking through the hallways of a large house. The boy had an annoyed look on his face as he walked through the corridors of the big house. The more he walked, the more he remembered what his parents had told him just a few minutes ago. The young man left his memories when he reached his destination. He stood in front of a large door made of the most powerful wood that was in the underworld. He looked at the beautiful door for a few seconds. After that, he raised his leg before parting it and destroying it. The 14-year-old boy entered the room, which was a large office. The office was full of books of all types and sizes. The office also had a mahogany desk with a chair behind and 2 chairs at the back. Behind the desk, sitting on a chair, was a young man appeared very similar to him. Like him, the man had long red hair. Unlike his hair was loose and not tied in a ponytail. And also, unlike the man, had eyes the same color as his sister. This man was none other than Serzex Lucifer, the Red Satan, and the strongest man in the entire demon society. He was sitting at his desk while finishing some documents. He did not even flinch when the door of his office was destroyed. He knew that the boy was going to his office, and he also knew that he would not be in a very good mood. Finished his documents, he looked up and looked at the boy in front of him. You know that's not the way to enter your elder brother XXXX's office, the redhead said as he looked at his younger brother. Fuck the way to get Onisama, he said, surprising his brother a bit by his strong language. The younger redhead frowned as he looked at the other. I just want to know why. Why did you do Onisama? Why did you arrange a marriage between Rias and Riser Phoenix? He asked as he watched his older brother. The man looked at his brother before crossing his arms over his desk. It was something that had to be done, XXX Kuin. The contract was established for the heir of the House Gremory to marry the third son of the House Phoenix. If the heir, and that heir is me, I am the heir of the great House Gremory, not Rias. That's why the contract belonged to me and not to her like that. Why did you change me? Me poor Rias asked the angry as he watched his older brother. The man nodded as he looked at the boy in front of him. It is true that you are the heir of the Gremory house, but you are a baron while Rias may not be the heir of our family, but she was born as a female so the contract happened to her immediately, she said as she looked at her brother was trembling a little. The younger of the two clenched his fist as he looked at the other. Lord and Lady Phoenix had another child a couple of years ago and she's a girl. You could give her the contract so I could marry her when she was older, and so Rias would not have to marry Razor. You know that Razor is a womanizer, narcissistic and egomaniac. You also know that Rias hates him with every fiber of his being. I just passed by Rias' room and found her crying Serzex. Rias had never cried before, brother. No, until he was informed of his commitment to Razor. You know that Rias hates him so much, so explain to me because in the name of the first Lucifer you did something like that. Serzex Lucifer's gaze remained impassive and calm as he looked at his younger brother. You're right, little brother. Lord and Lady Phoenix had a daughter, but even if the commitment cannot be moved, also you are already committed to the heiress of the House Citri, and that cannot be changed. And even if I do not like it, I cannot do anything to annul it either. So Rias and Razor's commitment is final. Not even our parents can do anything to stop it. The younger redhead turned around angrily to get out of the office. When he got to where the door was before it was destroyed, he stopped and looked at his older brother. Sona and I already talk about that, and she is willing to marry me when she is ready. She also knows my feelings for Rias, and she said that she did not care as long as I loved her too. So I want you to know that I will not sit idly by while I see how my only sister suffers. If you are not willing to stop this, then I will do it myself. And I do not care if I have to destroy the whole Phoenix family for that. But I will not let Rias marry Razor, and if you stand in my way I will also destroy you. Onisama, said the redhead with his eyes full of hatred and anger. He had never hated anyone so much as he was hating his older brother right now. Also the brother part, he said as if he were spitting the poison of a basilisk. The little redhead went down the hall to an unknown address. The older redhead stared at his younger brother's back until he disappeared from the hallway. When his brother was out of his sight he sighed heavily. He knew that his younger brother would be upset when he found out about the engagement of Rias and Razor. That he also knew that they both wanted much more than brothers. If by him were none of the two commitment contracts would exist. But he could not do anything. The Gremory family had an outstanding debt with both families that could not be denied, and once the compromise between the Gremory and the Citri was nullified when he and Sarah Fall were chosen. But unfortunately for both of them, he had fallen in love with another woman who ended up being his wife and the mother of his young son. That's why when both the family knew that their mother Vanillana would have a female and a baron, they decided to pass the contracts to them. So when the children were born, the family decided to let them grow together so that they get to know each other. When the heirs of the House Citri and Gremory were old enough to understand, they were informed of the commitment contracts. Fortunately for both families, both heirs were born with a mind superior to that of any of their age, and that led them to mature at a young age, making the parents' work was much easier for them. After both heirs knew about the contracts, they completely agreed with him, and they never refused, since both had grown up together and had feelings for each other since they met for the first time. But in the case of Rias was totally deferential. She from the first day she met Razor despised him for his arrogance and for the way he treated others, as if they were all his slaves and he was the king and owner of the world. So both families had decided to wait a while to tell Rias about the commitment and see if his opinion of Razor changed. But unfortunately the thing was not, as over the years the relationship between Rias and Razor, instead of improving, the relationship worsened to the point that the redhead did not like to hear the name of the heir Phoenix, and much less be in his presence. To make things worse, Rias became enraged and saddened when she learned that she was engaged to Razor. Serzex stared down the hallway where his brother went before returning to do his job with a sad look on his face. 5 years later, a young man of about 19 was standing on a large, high hill. In front of him was a large and elegant mansion which was full of people who were celebrating some kind of party. In the middle of it all you could see a blonde boy next to a beautiful young redhead who had a sad look on his face. The man was dressed in black pants. Covering his chest was a white t-shirt under one of a black jacket. The boy had a transparent lenses on his face which protected some beautiful blue eyes. In his right ear there was a small red earring with the symbol of the Gremory house on it. His hair was blood red which was tied on his back. Behind the man you could see more people. One of the people behind him approached the red-haired boy who was seeing the red-haired girl inside the mansion, which was being presented as if it were some kind of prize or steak of the best meat that exists. The man could not believe how low his species had fallen. He knew that they were better than many other species, but what he was seeing in front of him told him otherwise. "Tell me, Rin, how or when was our species called so low?" he said while looking at the girl in front of him. "How is it that a species that claims to be better than human beings behaves like them? How our species can be so cruel to sacrifice the happiness and well-being of a girl just to fulfill a foolish promise to a family, and everything so, to keep the blood pure," he said as the boy behind him kept silent, waiting for him to finish talking. The boy behind the danger just stared at his leader while he was silent. The boy's name was Rin Okamura. Rin has messy dark blue hair that extends up to her eye level. She has pale skin and her eyes are torn blue intense color. Rin wore a simple blue hooded sweatshirt over a pink t-shirt and black jeans with chains on the sides, giving the impression of a rebellious character. He also had black fingerless gloves. In his hand was a sword which he called the kurikara. The kurikara, it is a one-edged sword. Its blade is traditional gray. The handle of the kurikara is the classic handle of a normal katana with ribbons or amulets tied at the end of it. The color of the pod of the kurikara is blue, similar to that of the mango, has several colorful elements making it a very striking katana. Rin is the only gentleman in the nobility of the red-haired boy because to resurrect him the 2 pieces of redhead knight were needed. Both boys heard someone shouting that Rias Gremory's virginity belonged to him. The redhead's eyes narrowed dangerously behind their transparent lenses. Rin saw the look of his leader and a smile appeared on his face. "I think it's about time we introduced ourselves, Naruto," he said while saying the name of the redhead for the first time since they both reached that hill. Naruto nodded as he raised his right hand. "Yes, I think it's time for hell to know that the King of Destruction is back." In the redhead's hand formed a blackish-red ball. The redhead crushed the ball that formed in his hand. The ball, it was compressed for a second until it turned into a 3-meter spear. The redhead raising his hand and throwing it back before throwing it into the mansion. The throw destroys the window where he was seeing all the people. The spear fell in the middle of a group of people that had formed around the redhead. The group was formed by the redhead who was being shown as a trophy, a blond boy with arrogant face who was dressed in a suit of white. Among the group were also a boy dressed in some kind of school uniform. Next to him there was also a red-haired man whom many could recognize as the Demon King Lucifer. Naruto saw how the spear exploded in the middle of the group. He also saw that everyone could jump by the time before being affected by the dangerous spear he had thrown. As soon as he saw that everyone could get out unharmed, he turned and looked at all those who accompanied him. "You wait here, Rin, and I will take care of all this." All those who were in front of the blonde nodded and both boys disappeared. Inside the mansion minutes before, the great hall of the Phoenix House was full of many demons who were invited to celebrate the engagement between Rias Gremory and Razor Phoenix. Among the guests was Sona Citri with her queen Tsubaki Shinran. Also among the guests was the rest of the nobility of Rias Gremory and many demons of important noble houses. Everyone present heard the squeak of a bird. After the squeak calmed, a small column of was appeared, and from it came Razor Phoenix dressed in a white suit. "Renowned nobles of the underworld. The Phoenix family feels honored with their sight and presence tonight. You were invited to this historic moment where I, Razor Phoenix, and the heir of the Gremory family, Rias Gremory, will formally announce our commitment," he said while making everyone look at him, especially the members of the Rias nobility who were not happy with what they were seeing. "Without further ado, let me introduce you to the beautiful Rias Gremory," he exclaimed as he stretched out his arms and a magic circle appeared. The circle had the emblem of the Gremory house, and the second heir of the Gremory house came out. As soon as Rias appeared, the doors that connected the hall to the hall and the whole house was opened. Everyone present turned to see the person who had just arrived. Rias's eyes opened when he saw that it was his only pawn, Issei. She exclaimed when she saw her pawn standing at the door. Behind the chestnut boy were the unconscious bodies of barge guards of the Phoenix House. Razor stands in front of Rias while looking at the brown boy, the same boy he had beaten during the qualifying game he had against Rias. "How do you dare to enter dash?" Razor could not finish what he was saying because he was interrupted by Issei. "I am Issei Hayato, a member of the Ku Academy's Research and Occult Club," he exclaimed as he showed all his booster gears. "And the virginity of my president Rias Gremory-sama belongs to me." All the demons present were surprised at the boy's bold statement. Even Rias herself blushed at the declaration of her pawn. She could not believe that Issei came here after what had happened, and much less could believe what he was saying in front of so many important people. She could feel like all the demons along with her brother and friends looked at her because of what said the redhead. Her gaze crossed for a few seconds with that of her best friend Sona Citri, and she saw how the girl in glasses shook her head in disagreement with what the boy with brown hair had said. "What? How dare you say that when Rias is engaged to me?" Razor asked angrily. "Guards, finish him," he said, and quickly a group of guards appeared to get rid of the annoyance that bothered his master so much. Issei was about to attack the guards who were surrounding him, but, luckily for him, all the guards they were stopped when their companions of nobleza were sent to help him. One by one he was in charge to finish with all the guards that were in the room, making that his companions smiled. The chaos and lack of control ran throughout the room thanks to all the fights and disorder that were causing the members of the nobility of Rias. Some nobles tried to get away as much as possible from the peels to avoid being injured. A fat man, the redhead, after a spear from one of the guards nearly tore her head off. Rias, what does this mean? A little show that I prepare, said a voice that appeared in front of Rias and Razier. All the fight stopped when they recognized the owner of the voice. Oni-sama, Rias said, surprised to see one of her two older brothers. Razor bowed a little before his leader before speaking. Surzex-sama, what do you mean by a little show? Asked the third son of the noble house Phoenix. The mouse smiled a little when he saw the boy in front of him. Razor-kun, it was very interesting to watch the raiding game, but to fight against my younger sister who has no experience, and who also had half of her pieces, was, well, he finished while leaving the meaning of his words in the air. Razor's gaze changed to one of anger as he looked at his leader. The man was saying in a few words that his fight was not something to his liking, and it was not very fair for his sister. Do you have any complaints about the fight? He asked as he tried to contain the desire he had to want to hit his leader in the face. No way. If I had it, the raiding game would become useless and pointless, not to mention that the circumstances involved this time. It would be that my old family were ashamed, he said as he closed his eyes for a second and a small image of his younger brother came to his since the small argument that both he and his family had lost contact with him. No one had been able to find him. Even his own mother spent a year looking for him and never found him. And after his little fight, the redhead was wear a juka and set retirement of evil Paisa and then left the underworld without even saying goodbye to his mother. Forgetting a bit the past, Surzex concentrated on the present. I wanted something interesting for my little sister's engagement party, he said as he turned his gaze from Razor to his sister's pawn. You the kid over there. I wanted to see for myself the power of the dragon that you have. So I asked Grafia to fix all this, he said while the woman appeared mysteriously beside him. Everyone was surprised when they heard what their leader had said. Razor's angry face had changed to one of arrogance when he understood what his leader wanted to do. I see, so that's it, he said as he looked at the man in front of him. Surzex nodded as he looked at Issei. Dragon against Phoenix, a clash between legendary powers holders would make this party very interesting, do not you think? He asked no one in particular. Suddenly the Lucifer's eyes opened when he felt something coming at full speed towards them. Everyone run! As soon as he said that, a blackish-red spear landed in the middle of them all, and only 2 seconds later it exploded. The whole room was covered with an intense red light, smoke, debris and screams could be heard from everyone present. Seconds later everything calmed down. The eyes of Surzex Lucifer were the first they saw and recognized one of the 2 figures that appeared after the explosion. So you have returned home, Oturo, he said, surprising everyone. All those present looked up to see if what their leader had said was true. When they did, none of them could prevent their eyes from filling with surprise because in front of them was Naruto Gremory, the second son of Lord and Lady Gremory, same high-class demon who had disappeared 5 years ago without saying anything to anyone including his own family. For years many looked for the redhead but no one could ever find him. No matter where they searched he never appeared and many began to believe that he was dead. Of all those who were completely surprised, but no one could get over Rias, the redhead had her eyes open until she could not. The happy cries began to come out of their greenish-blue orbs. The happy grimaces of seeing again her brother after 5 long years where she had never heard from him. And Naruto Oni-san, she said, calling the attention of the blonde. The redhead's eyes changed quickly when she saw his brother's blue eyes. His eyes were no longer warm and full of joy and affection as when he looked at her before when they were children. Now his look was full of hatred and contempt. Do not you dare call me Gremory like that, said the redhead while looking at his younger sister. Rias took a step back as if she had been hit in the face by a large mallet. The tears of joy and happiness were replaced by tears of pain and suffering upon hearing the hard words of her brother. He had never spoken to her about that. She had not given him a look like the one he was giving her, let alone called her by her last name. But Oniase I told you not to call me Gremory. You lost the right to call me that. For you I'm just Gremory-sama or Naruto-sama. The redhead's heart broke when she heard her brother say those things. She fell to the floor while the tears came out uncontrollably from his eyes. Akino along with the other members of the Rias nobility approached her. The black-haired girl hugged her friend to comfort her while looking at the redhead with a bit of hatred in his eyes for the way he was talking to his own sister. You do not think that's a very cruel way to talk to your younger sister, Naruto-kun, Surzex said as he looked at his younger brother. Naruto's hateful gaze went to his older brother who remained unperturbed despite the look of the younger redhead. The redhead was about to say something but stopped when he felt someone was taking him for the man. Hey you! I do not know who you are or who you believe, but I will not let you talk to Rias Bucho like that, said Issei as he turned and looked at the redhead directly in the eyes. Issei no! Shouted Yuto and Kaneko, but it was too late. Naruto saw the boy who was touching them. The redhead turned quickly and hit Issei directly in the face. The blow was so strong that it sent the chestnut to crash against the wall after knocking down tables. Never in your life you touch me again, Naruto said while looking at the boy who was trying to get up from the floor. Razor smiled at the way Naruto had treated his sister's pawn. The Phoebix approached the redhead and placed his hand on his shoulder just as he had done the other boy. It's good to see you after so much time, Naruto. I also see that you keep putting the garbage in its place. Naruto raised his right hand and pointed it at the center of Razor's chest. A dark purple sphere formed in his palm and he shot out quickly and hit the members of the Phoenix family when he was sent to squeeze against the wall just like Brown. Do not ever talk to me like we were any kind of Phoenix friends, For me the only rubbish here is you and all who support this false, he said as he lowered his hand and looked at everyone around him. Some of the demons cringed when the look the redhead fell on them. Quickly the members of the Razor nobility raced towards their fallen leader and helped him to get off the ground. Razor-sama is fine? Asked a girl with cat ears. The girl's eyes filled with hate, and she looked at the redhead. As you dare to do that to Razor-sama, you will pay for that with your life, she said angrily as she stopped ready to fight with the redhead. She along with all her nobility companions ran towards Naruto with the intention of making him pay for what he did to his leader. The redhead saw how they all ran towards him, so he unleashed half of all his power. Quickly all the demons except Surzex, Grafia and Rin fell to the ground when they felt an incredible pressure on them. The pressure exerted by the release of half of Naruto's power was causing everyone to begin to sweat. Many were breathing hard while others were lying on the floor unconscious. The members of the Razor nobility were terrified when they saw the redhead's gaze. The look that he was giving him made them feel that they were in the presence of the same death. All were scared and terrified. They were all afraid for their lives. One after another they began to fall unconscious, unable to bear the pressure exerted by the great power of the redhead on them. See how much power Kaneko thought as he looked at his leader's brother. She never thought Naruto would become even stronger than the last time she saw him. When he was still in the Gremory house he always treated her well, and she always gave him sweets while she stroked his head. She felt devastated when she learned that he had left without even saying goodbye to her. When Naruto-sama became so powerful, so much power, this is so overwhelming, thought Akino as the sweat ran down his forehead. The brunette was sweating and getting more and more excited. The pressure exerted by the power of the young heir was making her aroused as never before, had done nothing or nobody. Even the biggest torture that she had applied to a vagabond demon had put her like that. She would have to take a good bath and take off her underwear since she was all wet and not from the sweat that ran through her body. And Naruto-sama, please stop, Kiba said as he looked at Naruto. The knight's breathing was very irregular, and he was about to lose consciousness. Naruto looked at Rias's blonde knight. He and the boy always got along when he was still in the earthly world. Feeling that someone was touching him, the Gremory looked and saw that it was his knight, who shook his head while looking at him. Naruto took a deep breath for a second and all his power disappeared. All those who are still aware began to breathe well again, relieved that the redhead finally calmed down. Naruto looked at his brother in front of him. Both red-haired men stared. Naruto raised his hand and pointed his palm towards his brother just as he had done with Razor. A sphere of destruction was formed in the hand of the boy. Before Naruto could shoot the sphere against his brother, Grafia stood in front of him. Move, Grafia, he said as he looked at his brother's wife. The silver-haired woman shook her head as she watched the redhead in front of her. I cannot do that, Naruto-sama. As leader of the House Crushes Gremory, I cannot allow anything to happen to my lord, she said in her quiet, stoic voice. I am the heir and leader of the Gremory family, Grafia, for which it is your duty to obey my orders, so move now. I do not want to hurt you, he said. He was very fond of and appreciated the woman in front of him because she was one of the women who raised him along with his mother. Every time his mother was a bit exhausted, she always stayed with him and Rias. She too is the mother of his only nephew whom he loved and pampered a lot while he was still at home. Because of that he did not want to attack her. He did not want his nephew to bother with him if he attacked his mother. He knew that the boy would be furious with him for disappearing for 5 years. 5 years where he never called or congratulated on his birthday. It is true that you are the heir and future lord of the Gremory house. So as the queen of Lucifer-sama, my duty is to protect him from any threat, including you, Naruto-sama too, he said as his gaze went cold and unleashed a little of his power. Silver looked red for what seemed like an eternity. None were willing to turn back. Everyone could feel how the temperature dropped slowly due to the power of the woman who was known as one of the most powerful women in the whole underworld. Naruto sighed as he made his power disappear. The Nape would dare to hurt the wife of his brother who was the mother of his little nephew whom he loved very much. Grafia also calmed down as he made his power disappear. The temperature slowly returned to normal and many demons sighed happily that both did not decide to fight. They did not want to be in the middle of a fight where two of the most dangerous powers of the underworld untie. Surzex also sighed as he disappeared a sphere of destruction that he had created in his right hand. He was ready to attack the younger redhead if he said to lay a hand on his wife. He would not kill his brother, of course. After everything, if he did it, his mother would never forgive him if he left it to live clear. Moving his wife aside, he stood in front of his rebellious brother. You have become very powerful, Naruto-kun. I also see that you have got very strong allies. While Surzex spoke, Naruto just stared at him without saying anything. It seems you're not very talkative today, but I'd like to ask you a question. Which is, what are you doing here, Ototo? Naruto stared at his brother for a few seconds before answering. I already told you the last time we saw each other. I will not let this wedding go ahead no matter who gets in my way, and anyone who dares to interpose will be destroyed by me. And that also includes you, Surzex, he said while everyone was amazed by his statement and his lack of respect for his leader. Surzex was about to say something but was interrupted by Issei, who had recovered from Naruto's incredible show of power. Fear, I do not care if you're Bucho's brother or not, but I'll kick your ass for talking to you like that, he said as he looked at Naruto furiously. A fireball happened a few millimeters from Naruto's face. The redhead looked at Razor, who had recovered completely from the attack of the Gremory and his show of power. Stop the commitment, you say. To do that you'll have to pass over me. I already beat your sister, and I was also about to beat that boy. But I changed my mind. I'll finish you and then I'll get married with Rias, Razor said while watching the redhead. Naruto looked at both boys in front of him, pointed his hands at each of them. A ball of destruction was created on both palms. Before he could attack, both spheres were destroyed by Lucifer. Naruto looked at his brother who was smiling at him. I see that the three of them have a lot of energy and a lot of desire to face each other. So why did not they send the three of them to a place where they can face each other freely and without anyone interrupting them? What do they say, Razor-kun, Issei-kun, Naruto-kun? He asked as Riser and Issei nodded. Naruto just stared at his brother before looking at Rias. Both brothers looked into each other's eyes. The third heiress of the Gremory house shuddered when her brother's eyes were looking at her with hatred and contempt. She could also see the sadness and betrayal in them. Next to that, she could also see much regret in the eyes of the redhead. Do what you want, said the redhead after removing his eyes from his sister. Well, I'll send the three of you to a place where you can fight freely, he said as he created a transport circle. Rias' eyes widened in shock when she saw Issei being transported with his brother and Razor so he could fight. Issei, no! She shouted as she tried to stop the brunette. Unfortunately, she could not make it in time. She looked at her older brother who had created portals so that everyone could see the fight. Oni-sama, please stop this. We cannot let Issei fight Razor and Naruto and Ai-san. Surzas shook his head as he looked at the redhead. There is nothing that I can do, Rias. Both Naruto and Issei-kun came with the sole intention of stopping this commitment, while Razor-kun will do everything possible for this to take place. So there is nothing what can be done to prevent these three from fighting, he said as he looked away from his brother towards his younger brother. But what worries me is the behavior of Naruto. The change a lot since he left home 5 years ago. You only saw the way he talks to you and how he looks at me. It's as if he hated us both. Rias' eyes opened. She thought that she was the only one who saw that in her brother. But she was wrong. Her heart began to ache with just imagining that her brother hated her. Thinking that made her suffer a lot since that she began to have the ability to love her beloved brother. She always loved him more than a sister should love a brother. She always liked to sleep in his bed with him, play with him and spend everything time together. When she found out about the compromise between her brother and her best friend, she became angry with Sona to such an extent that she told him that if she did not cancel her engagement with her brother she would never talk to him again. Her anger increased further when Sona said not to cancel it because she also loved her brother. Hate and sadness took hold of her when her friend said that. She strolled into her room where she cried for hours. She cried until her sleep but never said anything to anyone. But one day everything changed. Her brother, she had noticed the distance between her and her best friend, so he pulled her at two and put her to talk. She did not want to admit that the reason why she stopped talking with Sona was because of jealousy. But unfortunately for her brother did not let her go until she did not reconcile. After 3 hours of silence she confessed everything, and her brother, he had said that he would not cancel his contract with Sona. He also told her that even if he is committed to the heiress Citri he would still love her no matter what. When she heard that, she became very happy and hugged her brother and her best friend. Her happiness was so great that she ended up giving her first kiss to her brother to Sona's consternation. The heiress Citri did not want to be left behind and also kissed her fiancé, which led the girls to a competition of which one kisses the blonde more. When it was over, all three of them ended up red for everything they had done. The redhead left his thoughts when she noticed something she had not seen. She noticed that among all the people who had been invited there was someone she did not see at first. You're a member of the nobility of Naruto, Oni-san? I asked as I looked at the blue-haired boy who was leaning against a wall while watching the fight that was about to begin. Rin looked at the girl who had spoken without much interest in his eyes. That's right, I am the knight of Naruto. My name is Rin Okumura. I am Rias Gremory's sister dash. Lose, he said as he interrupted her. I know who you are, Rias-san. Naruto told us a lot about his family and about you too, he said, making her surprised a little. Then you know why he is acting like this. Because he is so aggressive and full of hate against Oni-sama and me. Rin's gaze changed completely from disinterest to one of mild anger. You should know the reason why Naruto is like that. After all, it's your fault that he is behaving that way. Rias was confused or was about to say something, but Rin did not leave her. It's not that I do not want to talk to you, Rias-san, but fight is about to begin, he said as he turned his gaze from the redhead to the portal where he could see his leader and his two opponents. Naruto stared at his two opponents in front of him with a look of disinterest on his face. All three of them were placed in a triangle formation. Lies looked at each other. Razor had changed clothes at some point from transport to this dimension, the dimension where the three were looked like an old fighting coliseum. At each one of the corner was a different piece of chess. Issei was looking at his opponent's lies with an arrogant smile on his face. Bucho, I'll solve this in 10 seconds and then we'll go home, he said as he gave a look full of hatred to both boys in front of him, especially Naruto, who had a look of disinterest behind his glasses. And I'll put all my foot so deep in your ass that you spit it out of your mouth. I'll make you regret everything you said about Bucho. Naruto raised one eyebrow as he looked at the boy. 10 seconds, you say? I think 10 seconds will not be enough to beat me. Razor, who heard the statement from the brown-haired boy, could not help but laugh at what he said. Ha 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 ha, 10 seconds. Then I'll shut your imprudent mouth in 5 seconds so you never open it again, Razor said as he took out his wings of fire and went flying. The member of the Phoenix family created 2 fireballs in his hands and threw them at both opponents. Issei jumped towards the sides to be able to dodge the ball of fire that was thrown towards him. While Razor was in the air, he never noticed when Naruto disappeared, much less when he appeared in front of him, not until it was too late. The eyes of the third son of the House Phoenix opened when his opponent appeared in front of him. Naruto clenched his fist tightly and hit Razor in the face, sending him quickly to crash to the ground. The redhead remained in the air thanks to his black wings. Looking towards the place where he had sent his opponent, he saw that he had started to get up. Moving his wings a little bit, he disappeared in a sound explosion and disappeared, and it seemed behind a surprised Razor who had managed to stand up. Moving his hand in a quick movement from left to right, the redhead cut Razor's head cleanly. Grabbing the decapitated body Phoenix, the redhead threw him towards Issei and hitting on the face with he. Snapping his fingers, 2 magic circles appeared on Issei and the mutilated body of Razor. Both circles fired a great shock of electric magic which electrocuted the chestnut and the body of Razor. The heir of the Gremory house disappeared his wings and raised his hands and pointed them towards the 2 boys. Issei and a newly recovered Razor saw how 2 balls of destruction were heading in their direction, so they jumped so as not to be destroyed. Falling at a safe distance from the redhead, Issei took a moment to breathe. The fight had barely a few seconds since it had started and he was already a little tired. Fighting both boys would be a little more complicated than he thought. But I still could not back down, not now, so taking a second breath he spoke. Bucho, give me permission to use the promotion, he said as he began to run towards Naruto, who he knew was the more dangerous of the 2. Queen promotion, he shouted as he approached the redhead. Issei threw his right fist with all his strength with the intention of breaking the face of his opponent, but he never expected what happened. Naruto caught the boy's fist easily. Twisting him, he made the chestnut scream in pain. Using his free hand, Naruto hit the boy in the throat and then released him. Issei took a step back while grabbing the affected area. The blue-eyed boy stood in front of the chestnut and hit him on the right side, causing the boy to bend to a certain beaten side and expose his other side. Using almost all his forces, Naruto hit the left side of Issei, breaking a couple of ribs and causing him to release a large amount of blood through his mouth. Taking a quick turn, Naruto hit the boy in the face and sent him to the stands of Colosseum, destroying everything with what the Choco. Razor appeared behind Naruto ready to hit him in the head. I hope he turned before he could do it, and crossed his chest with his hand. The redhead's hand had crossed the boy in front of him a few millimeters from where he was standing. Heart, creating a sphere in his other hand, he hit Razor in the face and destroyed his head again. Throwing Razor's body aside, the redhead spoke. Is that all? Is that all they have? He asked as he looked at both boys lying on the floor. Because if that's the case, you do not even serve to warm up. If I had known what it would end like this, I would not have bothered to come and waste my time with you. He spoke. Lies crossed his arms and frowned a little. Issei stood up slowly while spitting blood in the process. The blows of the redhead really hurt him. He could feel his body begging him to stay on the floor, but he could not. The future of his leader depended on him. I have not finished yet, he said as he got up completely. I may not have a great skill with the sword like Kiba, the great strength of Kaneko-chan, or the amazing magic abilities of Akino. I do not have a great healing ability like Asia either. But even so, I will become the strongest pawn, and if it's for you, Bucho would even kill God, so shine over boost. He shouted as he leaped into the air. Naruto stared at everything with a calm look on his face. He saw how the boy stayed suspended in the air before he started talking again. Wells Dragon, overboost. QQQ. The redhead heard a strong and powerful voice that came from the boy's boosted gear. Before the eyes of all, the body of the pawn began to shine with an intense red light. Before an armor, it will begin to form throughout your body. This is the power of the Dragon Emperor. Balance breaker. Boosted gear scale male. He shouted as 2 dragon wings appeared on his back and he used them to stay in the air. Razor, who was watching all this, was very angry about the immense power that came out of the boy. His anger grew a little more when he saw that Naruto gave a look of disinterest, as if he was not surprised by what he was seeing. Everyone in the audience was surprised by the new transformation of the chestnut tree. Yes. Everyone was surprised except Naruto. The son of Vanillana Bale had a look of disinterest and boredom in his eyes, as if the new transformation of his opponent was not much. Balance breaker. A forbidden movement that gives the user a big power boost in his sacred gear, he said as he looked at the chestnut tree. Please tell me that this is not all you have. Please tell me that you have more power than I am feeling coming out of you. Because if it is not so, then this is not worth penis my time. I speak as I felt the anger coming out of the boy in dragon armor. Or do you think that with that power so low you can defeat me? I will show you what is the true power of a dragon, he said as he began to liberate all his power of the blow, causing the whole dimension to shake violently due to the amount of power he was releasing. The chess pieces began to collapse as well as the Colosseum too. A gigantic magic circle appeared under the feet of the heir of the Gremory house. Everyone present saw how a great wall of fire came out of the circle and consumed the boy. The fire was followed by a loud roar that was heard throughout the air, causing everything to tremble even more. All were able to see as a pair of immense claws came out of the circle, followed by a large head which was followed by an even larger body. The eyes of Issei and Razor opened when they saw Naruto standing on the head of a huge dragon, a true black dragon. The dragon's scales were a deep black color. The horns and spine were a deep red like blood. His eyes were 2 red-hot pits like the hair of his summoner. The dragon was big and with an aggressive, dangerous and scary appearance. The dragon gave a great roar and released a powerful jet of fire, showing the world its powerful flames while moving its huge wings, and beat them a couple of times. The dragon's flames were black with red streaks, and its heat can be felt even at a distance of 30 meters from where they were thrown. Its flutter sounded like a great thunderstorm. Above the dragon's head was a smiling Naruto as he watched the terror and wonder on the faces of Issei and Razor. "I present to you Drogon, the Black Dragon Emperor and one of the strongest dragons that exist," he said as the dragon gave a loud roar, making everything tremble again. "Drogon, I present to you your prey." As soon as Naruto ended, Drogon threw a rain of black fire on both boys. Razor tried to create a shield to protect himself, but it was quickly destroyed. Issei, who had landed in front of the redhead, tubed to jump and use his wings to avoid the dragon's attack, flapping his wings quickly, trying to attack Naruto directly. But before he could get close to the redhead, he was hit by the tail of Drogon, who sent him away from his summoner. A snarl of pain came from Issei's lips as he crashed violently to the ground. The chestnut rose slowly from the ground as he watched as Razor had been burned by the huge dragon and his strange black fire. Ignoring how the phoenix was turned into nothing more than a charred body, he focused his gaze on the cause of all this, which stood quietly on the huge dragon. Looking at the blue eyes of his leader's brother, he saw that he was looking at him as if he was not something other than garbage, as something that should not be in his presence. "Comrade, you may have increased your power, but against Drogon you have no chance." Issei heard the voice of Dragon Drake inside. "Do you know him?" asked the brunette, a little surprised. "Yes, Drogon has also been like the Black Beast or the Winged Shadow, is one of the most powerful dragons that exist. He is as powerful as me. I cannot believe that a demon, and one so young, could find and master it. The only chance you have of being able to win this is forgetting Drogon and fighting directly against his summoner. If you manage to knock him down and knock him unconscious, everything will end," Drake said while Issei nodded. "But you have to do it soon. You know that this power increase you've had is only temporary." The chestnut was ready to launch himself at the redhead again, but stopped when he heard an angry shout not far from him. "Damn you, Gremory, you'll pay for that!" Razor shouted after healing from the dragon's wounds. The member of the Phoenix family created hundreds of magic circles which surrounded Naruto and his dragon. In front of Razor appeared a magic circle 10 times bigger than all the others. "Now turn into ashes," he shouted as he looked at the blonde with his eyes full of hate. A great storm of fire came out of all the magic circles and covered the dragon duo and invoker in front of him. The fire consumed both Naruto and his dragon. For Rias minutes the fire came out of the hundreds of magic circles and covered both. During all that time nobody saw or heard anything of Naruto. Not a cry or a lament. Nothing, absolutely nothing could be heard. But after a few minutes everyone saw how all the magic circles disappeared, and as slowly the fire went out. When all the fire was consumed, Razor took a couple of steps back in shock and horror. That is impossible. As it is possible that you could survive something like that. That must have ended your life and that dragon's, he said when he saw Naruto completely unharmed just like Drogon. Not a single scratch I could see about the redhead, even his clothes were completely unharmed. Anyone who looked at the blonde would think that Razor's attack had never happened. Naruto stared at the phoenix with the same calm look he had had for a while. He kept looking at Razor and his other opponent as if they were nothing in front of him. Razor was completely scared when Drogon ducked a bit to look directly at the face. A small snort came out of the nasal pits of the fearsome dragon. "You, little insignificant devil, dare to attack my partner," Drogon said as his mouth began to fill with black fire. "I will teach you to have respect for your superiors, small worthless demon," Drogon said, and threw a great jet of black fire which consumed Razor completely. After a few short seconds both the member of the Phoenix family and the place where he was standing completely disappeared. The disappearance Razor caused that only Naruto and a surprised Issei were in the fight arena. Averting his gaze from the place Razor occupied only a few years ago, the future lord of the house Gremory looked at the chestnut boy in front of him, and for the first time since the fight began his gaze changed completely to one full of hatred and rage. His eyes changed some impassive and bored with hate and anger. But suddenly the redhead fell to his knees on Drogon, while holding his head tightly. "Arg," he began to scream as he moved his head from side to side. "I love you, Oni-chan. Oni-chan, I want to marry you and only with you. I will always love you and only you, Naruto-kun. Do you also truly love me, Naru and I?" Various images and memories began to quickly pass through Naruto's head as he writhed in pain over the head of the immense black dragon. "Shut!" Naruto said as he tried to stop the constant memories and the voice of his sister in his head. "You will be mine, Oni-san." "Shut! We will have many sons, Oni-san." "No! Shut up, you betrayed me. You're nothing to me. I do not love you anymore, so get out of my head," he said as he writhed again and again to try to keep his voice away. His sister, but it did not matter what he did, the voice and the memories kept coming. "Oni-san, I love you. I love you too, Rias-chan." "No!" Naruto shouted loudly when one last image of the smiling redhead appeared in his head. The pain was so great and intense that he lost sight of everything around him and everything around him. Because of that he never did not realize or he noticed when Issei had approached him on his right side. "Take this damn bastard," shouted Issei as he grabbed the redhead by the neck. Clenching his fist, the chestnut hit the redhead so hard that he sent him so fast to the ground, so fast that anyone could have mistaken him for a missile. Naruto hit the ground, creating a small crater around him. Drogon's eyes narrowed when he saw the redhead on the floor. He did not know why he had begun to scream so suddenly. He had never seen him form that way, as so little had seen him lower his guard. Naruto, is Naruto okay? Drogon asked as he watched the redhead slowly rise from the ground. If I'm a good partner, Naruto said while he could feel his head calm down a bit. Alone were bad memories, that's all. Drogon nodded before looking at Issei, who had landed away from the redhead and the dragon. You'll regret that, he said as he prepared another ball of fire. But unlike the one he had thrown at Razor, it was twice as big and darker than the previous one. Wait, Drogon, Naruto said as he stopped his partner. I will personally take care of him. You can go back home, he said as he walked until facing Issei. Drogon looked at his leader before speaking. Are you sure about this, Naruto? He asked as the heir nodded. Well, we'll all be waiting for you at home, he said as he created a great circle and completely disapproved. You said you would end this fight in 10 seconds. It's been almost 10 and we're still here, Naruto said as he looked at the boy in dragon armor. You thought that by just having that secret guards you were special, Naruto said as he began to unleash all his powers slowly again. You think that by having one of the 13 Longinus you are powerful. You think that by being reincarnated with 8 pawns gives you the right to take what is not yours. You think that because my sister pays much attention makes you more special than everyone else. I am Naruto Gremory, son of Vanillana Bale and Zalticious Gremory, the sole and legitimate heir of the noble house Gremory, and I will destroy you. The more Naruto talked, the more his power increased. The redhead's eyes changed color. Now his eyes were no longer blue but green. In just a blink, Naruto ran to Issei and hit him in the stomach. The body of the chestnut rose up 10 meters into the air, but before it continued to rise, Naruto appeared on him and hit him with the heel of his foot in the head, sending him to the ground. Creating 2 spheres of destruction, he threw them down and hit his enemy in the back. Landing on the ground, the redhead jumped back and slid across the ground when he saw that his attack had not caused enough damage. THC, that thing is tougher than it looks, but I'll still end with her and you, he said as he watched as the chestnut began to rise from the ground. And it seems that someone wants to continue suffering. Just surrender and maybe destroy you quickly and painlessly. I will never give up. I'm not finished yet, he said as he got up completely and harder. 2 thrusters came out of Issei's back as he ran towards Naruto and hit him in the face. The blonde only moved a few meters back since the blow was not as strong as the chestnut thought. Naruto looked at the boy who had hit him with his green eyes. A look even more furious than before formed on his face. How dare your piece of shit! To Naruto stopped when he felt something hot on his cheek. Slowly he felt as the hot was increased until it became unbearable. Arid, Naruto yelled as he fell to the ground clutching his cheek, which was burning hot. Damn bastard, you made me? He asked as he grabbed the injured area. He knew that a single stroke of this weakling was not enough to hurt him. Besides, his wound was burning and burning his blood. His eyes were opened when the realization hit him. He only knew of one thing that could do that to him. It seems you noticed, Issei said as he raised his arm and showed him a crus palateata. A crus that was dripping a transparent liquid. I'm sure you should know, but objects like cruses and holy water are very lethal for us demons. Even she is capable of causing very ugly wounds and even death, he said as he took out a jar with water vendita and he sprayed her on his arm and the cross he had in his hand. With these objects I'm sure I can beat you. Naruto looked at the boy in front of him for a few seconds before his eyes narrowed. Placing his hand on his burned cheek, he made it begin to heal slowly. After his cheek was completely healed, he got up from the ground and faced to your opponent. I see, you sacrificed your arm to the dragon inside of you so that you could use those sacred objects without suffering the consequences. That's right. I would love that and more, to be able to recover Rias and her virginity. After all, I'm the one who took her virginity. Naruto's body tensed quickly. His hair fell forward and covered his face. I see, he said as he raised his head, slowly looked at the chestnut. Issei involuntarily stepped back when he saw that the opponent's eyes changed again. Now his eyes were red. In just a blink, only a blink, took Naruto to cross the distance that separated him from his opponent, who was surprised to the core when he saw the redhead in front of him. Moving the air, Gremory took the boy by the neck and began to squeeze it tightly. Moving his other hand, he snatched the crus from his hand and threw it away from him, and ignoring the fact that his hand had burned when he took the cross, using all his forces he nailed Issei on the ground, creating a crater under the. He took Issei by his right leg, he raised and dropped from the Akara to the ground. Lifted again, he returned to do the same with the boy. The air Gremory repeated the same process various times, making Issei's armor begin to fall apart with each blow. Naruto stopped and saw that the boy was bleeding a lot. Turning various times, the redhead threw the pawn towards the stands, where it crashed violently and destroyed most of the place. After throwing the boy, he created a spear with his power of destruction in his hand and sent against the chestnut. The spear hit Issei in the leg, destroying his armor, but for strong chestnut his leg was unharmed. Despite all the blows and lessons, Issei tried to get up but to keep fighting, but before he could even put himself on guard, he found Naruto in front of him. The redhead took him by the throat again and picked him up. Using all his strength, Naruto hit him in the stomach, causing all his armor to be completely destroyed. A big glob of blood and saliva came out of Issei's mouth and fell on the clothes of the boy with red hair. Taking off his wings, Naruto flew up to the top of the fight arena. Looking at the chestnut, he let go and waited for him to be a few meters away from him. When Issei was at the required distance, Naruto was thrown behind him, and before Issei could, he took it again by the neck and create another spear of destruction in his hand, which he stuck in the stomach of Issei, making it begin to bleed. Seeing that the ground was very close, Naruto hit Issei in the face, sending him to crash against the ground. Turning as he descended, Naruto pointed his foot against the chestnut tree and planted it in the stomach of this, further aggravating his wound, and a large crater was formed under both. Jumping from the chestnut body, he created a magic circle which launched a large amount of water on the unconscious boy, who woke up quickly. After seeing that he was fully awake, he ran to him and grabbed him by the leg. Turning, he ran out of the crater while dragging the body of the bleeding boy. Out of the crater, the redhead jumped into the air and sent Issei against the ground again. Landed on the ground, Naruto walked towards his opponent only to find that he was unconscious again. Raised his right leg, he let it fall on the chest of the unconscious boy. Naruto observed the unconscious boy under his foot with a look of hatred and contempt. He wanted nothing more than to kill him and end his life, but even he knew he could not do that for two reasons. One was that regardless of the damage that the boy suffered, the seriousness removed from the arena before he died, and the other was that the deaths in a classification game were totally forbidden. At least the intentional killings, since it had seen occasions where a person had died during the game, but those occasions were very few and the deaths were not intentional, and in case it was proved otherwise, the demon causing the death would suffer a terrible punishment regardless of whether it was from a family pillar or not. So, looking up at the purple sky, he spoke before closing his eyes. "Sirs Gremory, present her before me." "Now," Naruto said, but for a few long seconds nothing happened, and that made him angry a little more than he already was. Creating a sphere of his power of destruction in his hand, he placed a few inches from Issei's face. "You have 3 seconds to appear before my Lucifer, or I will destroy this boy's head," Naruto said, but like before, nothing happened. 1, 2. Naruto stopped counting when he saw that a red light appeared in front of him, and her older brother came out. Sirs appeared in front of his younger brother with a face of total seriousness. Since he began the fight, he had noticed that Naruto had become stronger. He had also seen that the color of the eyes of his younger brother had changed twice, and with each change that had his power increase a little more. But what baffled him and terrified him a little was the brutal way in which he treated his sister's pawn. He fought against him as if he wanted to kill him, as if he did not care about the rules and consequences that were to cause the death of another demon during a game. Watching him, he saw that his now red eyes were a little bright, and full of hatred towards him. "I'm here, Naruto. Now you can let go and cancel your power," he said while looking at the redhead. Naruto straightened a bit as he looked at his supposed older brother. He stared at him without canceling his power that threatened to destroy the face and head of the unconscious boy. He just stood there watching him, while he was still pointed towards Issei's head. For a few long seconds he just stared at him until he decided to speak. "Face my Sirs Gremory, or this boy dies," he said as he applied more power in his hand, making the ball grow a little more. "You decide, Sirs. You face me or he dies. The choice is yours," he said as he looked at his brother with his red eyes. "Why are you doing this, Naruto? Why do you behave like that? What happened to you to change so much?" he asked as he looked at the heir of his family. "Besides, I know you will not kill him. I know you know the consequences of killing another demon during a declassification match." A cold smile without emotion or feeling formed on the face of the redhead. "You think I really care about the Sirs rules," he said as he applied a little more of his power to the sphere in his hand. "The last time we saw each other I told you that I would not allow this wedding to take place. I told you that I would not let Gremory and Phoenix blood mix, and I also told you that I would finish all those who they get in my way, and that includes you as well as this guy. I already cancel and compromise between Gremory and Razor to finish these two, but I still have one to face. I still have to finish with the one that organized all this, and that's you." "Brother," the way Naruto said the latter caused a small pang of pain in the heart of the current Lucifer. The way he said it was with so much hatred and contempt, as if he was addressing a mortal enemy, and not a member of his own family. Hardening his gaze, the leader of all the demons spoke. "I see that you are willing to continue this until the end," he said while looking at his brother, who nodded. "It's okay, Naruto, I'll fight against you, but first I want you to answer 2 questions. Why do you mean Rias only because of her last name and not like your sister?" "Because she betrayed me, and I will never forgive her for that, not after what she did to me, after she almost stained the honor and reputation of our family," she said as her eyes grew redder, making her power will increase a little more. "I see. My second question is, if you are going to punish all those who participated in this commitment, will you also fight Ota-san and Oka-san?" The surprise crossed Naruto's eyes when he heard what his brother had said. The surprise was so great that his eyes returned to their normal blue for a few seconds before turning red again. "From our father, I'll take care of it after it ends with you, so we stop talking and start with this." Sirs nodded and snapped his fingers, causing a magic circle to appear under Issei's body and begin to slowly disappear until the only ones in the place were Naruto and his brother. Without any warning or adventitious, Naruto ran to the Satan, and when he was close to it to jump in the air. Sirs had to duck to dodge his brother's kick, quickly turning the deal to slam his fist against Naruto's back, who landed behind him. But he never expected him to turn quickly, and his fist crashing into his, making a shockwave would spread throughout the area where they were. The force behind the blow of both fighters caused the sand to shake violently. Frowning a bit, the heir of House Gremory knew he could not win against his opponent in a single brute force fight. He knew very well that although he did not look like his brother was very strong physically speaking, so jumping backwards the eye point the palms towards his opponent. Sirs had to start running to avoid all Naruto's destruction balls. The big redhead stopped quickly as he slid across the floor. A smile appeared on his face as he placed both hands on the ground. Naruto saw his brother's smile and immediately knew that he was plotting something. His suspicions turned out to be true when he felt the ground beneath him shake a little. So sending some of his power to his legs, he jumped right in time to avoid being consumed by a great wave of destruction, feeling that someone appeared on top of him. He looked up or saw his brother, who had both hands raised in a fist over his head. Seeing this, the attempt to move his body to try to dodge the attack of his opponent, but unfortunately he did not have time to dodge the attack and was sent to crash into the ground. Hardly opening his eyes, Naruto rolled on the ground to dodge a kick that would undoubtedly have broken his entire face and possibly knocked him unconscious. Using his hands as a support to get to his feet before bending over and sweeping his brother's legs when his opponent's feet left the floor of it, he kicked him in the chest and sent him away from him. Pointing his hand towards his opponent, a purple sphere hit him and sent him towards a wall. But before that will happen, Naruto pulled his wings and quickly bolus until he was behind his brother, clenching his fist strongly, hitting Lucifer in the center of the back, causing him to return to the direction from where he came. Using his wings again, the deal to make the same, but before I could hit him, his brother pulled out his own wings and stopped in the air. Turning quickly, Surzex threw a covered kick of his family power towards his brother, who crossed his arms in front of his face to protect himself. The kick was so strong that the blonde was thrown backwards, but just like his brother had previously used his wings to stop and look at Demon King. Both brothers looked into each other's eyes for a second until the older of the two decided to speak. "You are still in time to surrender, Naruto. If you continue with this, you could be seriously injured," the reasoning with his brother, but he did not answer and just stared at him. The Lucifer sigh at the hard head that was his younger brother. Both brothers heard a piece of rock fall to the ground and threw themselves against each other again. Both found themselves in the center of the arena, clasping their forearms against each other. The shock of both redheads caused the whole place to begin to be destroyed. Naruto separated a couple of steps and kicked his brother's head. Surzex took Naruto's leg with his right hand before using the left and hit him in the face. Lucifer saw how his brother was shaken by the impact, so he released his leg and hit him with Baro's hooks left and right in the face. Placing his hands behind the back of his opponent's neck, Surzex lowered him a bit before proceeding to hit him Rias times on the knee in the face. Naruto was beginning to be disoriented by the constant blows to the face. A small wave of pain ran through his body when he felt that his nose was broken by one of his brother's knees and the blood began to come out of her. Putting his hands in front of him, of the achievement to stop and grab the leg of his opponent, demonstrating great strength, the achievement to throw back and take his opponent with him. Now it was the turn of Surzex's face to hit something hard, because when the redhead threw him, his face hit the ground. Taking a small leap back, Naruto placed himself on his brother's back and hit him with his right fist so hard that it caused a small crater to be created under his feet, and that his older brother let out a small cry of pain. Opening his palana, he pressed on the back of the red Satan. "Hawkeye," he said. The whole back of his brother began to be covered in a purple light which began to slowly disintegrate the clothes of this. Using his wings, he climbed to a certain height and pointed his hands towards his brother. "Hawkeye!" he shouted as he threw Rias spheres of purple color towards his downed opponent. The whole place underneath began to be covered with dust and dirt, making it impossible for him to see anything. Turning his eyes to a corner, he could see his brother, who had removed part of his clothes and had thrown him away from him. Surzex watched with fascination as his clothes disintegrated slowly. If he had not acted quickly, that could have been him. Looking at the crater where he was a few seconds ago, he saw how it had deepened a little more when the strange purple spheres collided against the ground. Looking at his brother, he saw that this was giving him a cold but serene look with his strange red eyes. "It seems that you managed to create a different version of the power of destruction. Although this is not as strong as the power of destruction, but if faster, without a doubt you are worthy of your title as the King of Destruction. But you must remember, little brother, that I am known as the God of Destruction," he said as he unleashed half of his power. Everything around the older redhead was covered in a red light for a few seconds. When the red light completely disappeared, all the fighting arena had also disappeared. All, including the rocks and the dust particles that had been in place, completely disappeared, leaving behind both fighters floating in what seemed like an infinite void of blackish purple color. Naruto saw the serious look on his brother's face and knew that the fight had become more difficult for him. He had only seen his brother with that kind of look, and it was only in the story books. That look he had, it was what he always carried during the times of the Great War between factions and the Demon Civil War. Both brothers looked at each other for a few seconds before using their wings to keep him in the air. "Hawkeye no Ryu!" Naruto shouted. A magic circle appeared in front of him, and from this came a huge purple dragon which flew towards his brother. Surzex calmly looked at the dragon that was coming towards him. When he saw that the dragon was near from he raised his hand and created a wall with his power of destruction which protected him from the dragon and caused it to be completely destroyed. Using his wings, and he began to fly to dodge a second dragon that wanted to attack him from behind. Dragon chased him for a while as he shoots purple balls from his jaws, stopping the Satan, grabbing his brother's huge creation and destroying it easily with his bare hands, shaking his head a little elusive Naruto's fist. Using his elbow, he hit his brother in the stomach and then kicked him in the face, causing him to descend in the darkness that surrounded them. Putting his hands in front of him, a magical red circle showed up. Naruto's eyes opened when he saw what came out of the circle. Moving his wings quickly, he began to fly and try to escape from an eagle throws from the power of his brother's destruction. While trying to escape, Naruto did not notice that his brother appeared in front of him. With his right hand, Surzex hit Naruto and sent him towards the eagle's mouth, which exploded when I swallowed it. The effects of the explosion only lasted a few seconds, and when it completely stopped, Naruto appeared with almost all his clothes destroyed. Blood came out of his shoulder and a small wound on his left eyebrow. The redhead was breathing quickly. That attack had more power than he had imagined. Only because he had created a sphere of destruction around him is that he is not floating unconscious. A look was placed on his face when he saw the look he was giving his older brother. A look of superiority appeared on Surzex Lucifer's face as he looked at his bleeding younger brother. What happened, Naruto? Perhaps you thought you were the only one in our family that could shape the power of destruction, he finished with a smile on his face. Naruto's eyes became more red than they already were. Extending his arms to both sides, he created Rias blackish-red spears and threw them towards his brother, but like the dragon that he had thrown earlier, this destroyed them all with his naked hands. Naruto's anger grew more when he saw this. The second son of the house, Gremory, flew directly to his brother and tried to hit him various times, but none of his punches could get near his older brother, who was diverting them all easily. Surzex, who was easily dodging his brother's blows, moved his head to the right, causing the redhead in front of him to fail again. Taking by the arm, he placed the elbow on his face before hitting him in the intestine with his other arm. The older redhead grabbed his brother by the head with one hand while using the other to hit him savagely in the face. Without a hint of remorse for what he was doing, Surzex continued to hit the younger boy. He kept planting his fist in the other's face even after a wound formed over his left eyebrow and blood began to cover his face. Rias Gremory was in complete shock at everything she was seeing. First, her older brother, who had disappeared from her home for 5 years, had appeared in front of her, and everyone who was present to witness the engagement party between her and Razor. After that, she tried to greet him, but the only thing she received in return were insults and cold looks from her brother, the man she loved more than her own life. But the way he had looked at her, and she had spoken, had scared her a bit, especially when he addressed her by her last name alone. To make matters worse, his brother Naruto attacked not only Razor and Issei but also tried to attack his other older brother. But thanks to his sister-in-law Grafia, the fight stopped before he could start. After threatening his brother, she saw how Naruto faced Razor and Issei, where he crushed them both emphatically. None of them had even the slightest chance against his brother. Also during the fight, she had realized that her older brother was not fighting against both boys but that he was playing with them. Her surprise turned into amazement when she saw how her brother invoked one of the most powerful dragons in the world, and with he proceeded to easily end Razor. She also saw that the dragon was not only Naruto's relative but apparently also a member of his nobility, along with the blue-haired boy named Rin Okumura. Her astonishment changed to horror when she saw her brother overcome and threatened to kill Issei if Surzex did not face him. She saw how her older brother decided to confront his other older brother in order to save the life of his pawn, and from at that moment things went from bad to worse. She and everyone present could see the great skill and power that both brothers had. She had to find a way to make both of them stop fighting, because the more they fought, things got worse, especially when her older brother Surzex had almost destroyed his other brother's face. Suddenly her eyes opened when she saw how both redheads concentrated all their power in a single attack. Without thinking, the redhead unlearned in a magic circle with the intention of stopping the fight between her brothers before one of them ends up dead because of her. Various minutes before Rias disappeared, Naruto was tired of being the punching bag of his older brother, so before he was hit again, he stopped his opponent's hand, hitting his forehead hard against his brother's, causing him to let go completely. The youngest of the two brothers used his 2 legs and hit the other in the stomach, causing it to move away from them. Using his wings, Naruto moved away at a safe distance from his brother. Putting both hands together, he began to create a weight of destruction which was growing a little more every second. Surzex saw how his brother was creating a sphere of destruction that was getting bigger and bigger. So you want to end this with a single attack, eh? Then for my own good, he said as he walked away too and created a sphere just like his brother. Both spheres grew to a huge level. Anyone who was watching the fight could feel the great power that was in each of the spheres. When they felt that their attack had the necessary power, they both threw it at each other. When both spheres of destruction were about to collide with each other and demonstrate which of the two had more power, a red light appeared in the middle of both of them. Anai-san, Oni-sama, please stop. Do not keep fighting, Rias said as she appeared in the air between the two without knowing the great danger she was in. The eyes of the redhead opened when she saw that was in the middle of 2 powerful attacks from his brothers. The power she felt coming from both was enough for her to be paralyzed and could not move. She just stayed flying where she was with her eyes wide open. The eyes of Naruto and Surzex opened in shock when they saw their little sister Rias standing in the middle of the 2 powerful attacks they had launched. They never expected her or anyone else to interfere in their fight. Flapping their wings quickly, both they flew at the maximum speed that they were allowed. Both flew as fast as they could with only one thing in mind: saving his younger sister. Everyone who was watching the fight knew that if both powers hit the girl, she would die and disappear forever. Damn, I cannot get there in time, thought both when they saw that even with all the speed that both had, they could not arrive in time to save it. Boom! The 2 spheres collided, exploded, and destroyed everything that could have been by their side. Naruto and Surzex were sent back several yards when both spheres collided and exploded. Also, a blinding light covered the whole place, making it impossible for both brothers to see something beyond their nose, or even less. The intensity of the light occurred during a few long and tedious minutes. Minutes in which they could not see anything or feel anything other than their own magical energy. After a few long minutes, the light of the explosion began to disappear, and when it completely disappeared, both they and everyone who was watching the fight could witness that they were the only two living beings in the whole dimension where they were. Dimension that it had begun to collapse. Parts of this had begun to turn white, while others were generating a raised species. All the devils and demons reincarnated present watching the fight were surprised by two things. One for the power that both members of the Gremory family exercised, and the other because there was no trace of the second heir Gremory after it was left in the middle of the attacks of his brothers. Rias! Both redheads shouted when they found no trace of their younger sister by or their magical energy anywhere. Their hearts cringed when all they could see was a crack that had formed in the dimension, and rays were coming out of the crack, the which expanded more and more, indicating that this dimension was about to be destroyed. The eyes of both opened in shock when they saw a small tuft of red hair descending in front of them. Both followed the lock of hair with their eyes until it was lost in the void that was the dimension where they were. Suddenly the whole dimension was illuminated with a great red light. A few seconds later a large blackish-red tornado formed in front of the children of the House Gremory. A chill rolled down the back of both boys when they felt the great power that had behind the tornado. The power they could both feel was not as great as theirs, but it was big enough to cause them terrible fear. They both knew that there were only 5 people within the Gremory family who could use the power of destruction, 2 of whom were themselves. The third person was their missing sister Rias. The fourth person was the nephew of one and the son of the other. Another malicious Gremory. The fifth and no less important person in exercising the power of destruction within the noble House Gremory was his mother, Venelana Bale, the brunette of destruction, the same woman who appeared before them with a frown on her face. Beautiful and delicate face. Venelana Bale, or Gremory as it was her married name, was known by all in the underworld for being a kind, affectionate, supportive woman and a woman who loved her family above all things. It did not matter if they were the Bale or the Gremory, anyone that he would attempt against his family would be destroyed by her. She was one of the few women who became feared during wartime because of her ferocity and great abilities. Many angels and fallen angels came out before her presence. When her oldest children were born, she decided to leave the war and dedicate herself to raising him so that he would not be healthy and strong. Because of that, she dedicated herself to being a housewife to take care of her son. Her work as a mother grew years later when she became pregnant of twins. But as with her older son, she raised and educated her twin sons. Then shortly after the twins were born, she was blessed with her first grandchild, a beautiful boy whom her son decided to call Malicious. She always full of love us all and always tried to educate them as best as possible. The only regret she had throughout her life was that she could not protect her children from the arranged marriages that had arisen for each of them. So that's why she secretly snuck into the Phoenix Mansion to see her daughter while she was presented as the fiancée of Razor Phoenix. Another of the reasons why she decided to enter without anyone noticing was because she knew that her daughter's pawn interfered to save her from the arranged commitment. But what she never expected even in his wildest dreams was the return of his lost son. A son she had not seen for 5 years. A son for whom she cried for days after hearing that he had left without saying goodbye to her or even leaving her a letter. Joy and pride filled his heart when his son said disappeared had come and declared in front of everyone that he was present only to stop the engagement, and thus cancel any future wedding, as he would not allow the blood Phoenix and Gremory to mix. The joy and pride slowly changed to surprise and a bit of disappointment when he saw how his son wanted to kill his sister's pawn if his older brother faced him in a fight. Her disappointment only increased when she saw her 2 older children face off in what seemed like a fight to the death. Her disappointment changed to horror when she saw her children launch a powerful attack on each other, attacks that could end the life of one of them if they had been hit by them. Their horror increased more when she saw that her daughter had disappeared to stop her brothers, but she ended up being in the middle of both attacks. So before something bad happened, she disappeared to try to stop and save her children. Now, thanks to that, she was in front of her 2 children while Rias was behind her with her eyes closed waiting for his death. The poor girl had not realized that all the danger had already passed, and that her life was no longer in danger. Venelana, looking away from her only daughter towards her 2 children, she gave them a look which had a mixture of disappointment, sadness and anger, a look that made both of them shrink. "What's wrong with you two? Are you trying to kill yourself or kill your sister?" she asked as she watched as her children knelt in front of her in respect. Naruto shook his head for a few seconds before getting up to see his beloved mother whom he had not seen in a long time. When his eyes met those of he showed that these were no longer green or red, but his blue normal. "I'm sorry, Okasama, it was not my intention but nothing Naruto-kun. Since you arrived you've been behaving very strange. You tried to kill your sister's pawn. Riser Phoenix was almost killed by that Drogon attack San, and now you are trying to kill your older brother. If it were not for my Rias, I was dead right now because of you. You are also in a lot of trouble leaving home without saying anything to anyone." "Young man," she said as they both realized that Rias was safe and sound while she was behind her mother. None had noticed her presence until her mother told them she was there. "I'm so sorry, Okasama," Naruto said as he lowered his head again. He knew that he would be in a lot of trouble with his mother for leaving without saying goodbye to her. He had planned to pay him a visit after his fight against Razor and his brother and apologize to her for leaving without saying goodbye. But he never expected her to be at the party and that she would be so angry with him. For him it was the first time since he was born that he saw that look on his mother, alleging that it was causing problems even to see her in the eye. When he looked at her, he always received a look of love and affection and a happy smile. But now all he could see in his mother's face was disappointment, sadness, and anger, and that made him feel bad. Even his magic she had changed. Before her magic was always quality and welcoming, but now it was cold as the ice magic her sister-in-law used. Venelana looked at her older son, who also had his head bowed in respect as Naruto did. It did not matter that he was the leader of his entire species. He still respected and loved his mother. She was the only woman that Enverad feared. She was the one who taught him how to use his powers and control them. "I'm very disappointed in you two," she said, causing both of them to clench their fists tightly. For them those words hurt more than any physical blow. "But I'm more disappointed in you, Sirzex. It's supposed that you're the big brother. Your duty is to protect your brothers and keep them from getting into trouble, not fighting against him in a fight to the death. Look how the face is of Naruto, all full of blood and bruises. I honestly do not know that I'm wrong. I thought I had raised them all better than that. But now that I see them, I cannot help being disappointed in everyone, including you, Rias," she said while giving her a sideways glance to her daughter behind her, who sadly falls under her head. Raised his eyes a little, Sirzex looked his mother straight in the eyes. "Okasama, that was not my intention. I really tried to stop Naruto and dissuade him from fighting me, but Satan stopped quickly when he saw that his mother's gaze intensified a bit. But nothing, Sirzex. You are one of the 4 Satans, the leader of all the demons. You cannot allow everyone to see you fall in the provocations of your younger brother. Now the 3 of us will go home and talk about everything that happened here. There is no longer any reason why we are here, because with the victory of Naruto over the peon de Rias and over Razorkun, the marriage contract of both is completely null and void, which means that Rias will not have to marry him, or anyone she does not want to," he said while creating a giant magic circle which jealousy took the Quattros to an unknown place. Outside the dimension where the fight had been carried out, Rin saw how his king would probably be taken home by his mother. Walking from the place where he was leaning, he approached a window. Looking through it, he saw his companions who were in the same place where he and his king had left them, nodding towards it, and saw how one by one they began to disappear. When he saw that the last one left, he created a circle under his feet and disappeared as well. There is no worse feeling than the knowledge that you fucked up, the knowledge that you screwed up so badly that you cannot get it out without having to suffer in return. And at the moment, Naruto Gremory knew 2 things. One was that he had made a mistake and appear in the underworld after 5 years of being missing. The second thing he knew was that at the end of the day he would be feeling a lot of pain. Naruto was in a lot of trouble, and he knew it. From the moment he was forced to enter the room he was in, he knew he was in a lot of trouble. In fact, he knew that from the moment he was in, he would place himself in front of his mother. He would be in many problems. Not to mention the assassination attempt against the peon de Rias, and also his attempted murder against one of the 4 Mao. With only that fact was enough to send him to a prison where he would be sentenced to death, because if it matters who you are or from which families you are, nobody attacks one of the Mao and lives for a long time. Even that he would prefer a slow and safe death to a prison to be in this room where he had been forced to enter. The room in which the redhead was a completely white room. Everything from the walls to the ceiling and the floor of the room was completely white. Wherever anyone looked, the only thing he could see was the infinite white that covered all the room. Even the chair where he was chained was white. If, as you heard, the red-headed heir of the Gremory house was chained in a chair with white chains, the chains apart from their peculiar color also made it impossible for the heir Gremory to use his magic. And even if he could use his magic to free himself from the chains, there was another problem that he would have to face. The room where he was. Although he could free himself from the chains and the chair, he would still have to face the fact that in the room where he was standing there were seals that made it impossible for him to use his magic. As soon as someone tried to use his magic, the room would activate and suck all your magic power quickly. In itself, the room where he was designed and manufactured to nullify the magic of all but the person who created it. Unfortunately for the said person was in front of him, while he was looking at him with the frown on his beautiful face. The attempt smiled a little to try to placate the man and the anger of the person in front of him, but that did not work. The only thing that caused his smile was that the person in front of him frowned a little more. So looking away, he glanced at the third person in the room. Along with Naruto was Sirzex Lucifer, who was also chained to a chair just like him. Also like the younger redhead, his older brother was dressed in a prisoner suit, but completely white. If not for his red hair, both could have gone unnoticed within so much whiteness. A chill ran all over Naruto's back when he looked at the person in front of him, who was staring at him with a frown and arms crossed, smiling nervously as he spoke. "Hello, Okasan, how are you?" he asked as he looked at the woman he most loved, respected, and feared all over the world. Said woman changed the frown on his face for a calm and impassive look while looking at the younger redhead. "No, hello, young man, that will not save you from your punishment," she said while looking at Naruto, who swallowed. "But first I want you two to explain to me why 2 of my 3 children were fighting in a fight to the death. A fight that almost cost the life of my only daughter," she said while using her powers to move the chairs and place your children side by side and in front of her. For a few seconds none of the Gremory brothers said a single word. Both opted better to look away so as not to see their mother. Listening to a familiar sound, Naruto looked at the floor and saw her mother crashing her foot impatiently on the floor, which meant that she was waiting for an answer and that if it did not arrive within the next 5 seconds someone would end up suffering. Impossible mind that someone would be the so. Looking up, he looked at his mother. "He's to blame for all this, mother," he said as he watched his older brother frowning. If it were not for none of this would have happened. My fault, Surzek said, making the other redhead nod. This is not my fault. This is not my fault at all. If someone is to blame for all this, you are. Your Naruto. You were the one who appeared after 5 years and started attacking and threatening the whole world, he said while looking at his brother. None of this would have happened if you had done what you had to do, if you had behaved like the leader you say you are and not as a clown with a great obsession for your younger brothers. Naruto said as he tried to force his bonds to break free and hit his brother, but it did not matter what he did, the chains did not give in to him. If you had cancelled the marriage between Gremory and Razor, none of this would have happened, and I would not have had to leave 5 years ago. And you think I did not try, you think I did not do everything that was in my power to stop it. But as much as I wanted, I could not do anything without showing favoritism towards our family. I cannot let all the demons think that I am using my power and position to benefit our family above all others, Satan said as he looked at his younger brother with an intense look. He could not say that he had not tried to stop the compromise between Rias and Razor, since he had done everything in his power to prevent this commitment from taking place. But there was little he could do without showing favoritism for his family. A mocking look appeared on Naruto's face as he looked at the first son of the Gremory house. That's crap and you know it. According to the Code of Intermarriage, Succession 1 Paragraph 2, if 2 or more members of one of the parties included in the arranged marriage do not agree with the marriage, it can be brought before the 4 Satans who, after listening to the complaints of part and part, they can make the decision to approve or cancel said marriage between demons. The redhead said, making his brother's eyes open a little. How do you know about that? Surzek asked, a little surprised. He never thought Naruto would know about those old laws. But after thinking about it a little, he remembered that his brother spent a lot of time in the library. He was always reading and researching everything. He always had a thirst for knowledge. No matter the subject, he was always researching or studying something new. That you thought I was doing during these 5 years, Surzek. During these last years I was studying and learning everything necessary to take my place as the leader of the Gremory house. Thanks to that I know everything about how to lead a family. The only thing I need to dominate is politics, and after that I will relieve our father as the leader of the Gremory family. Naruto said seriously. For years he went out of his way studying everything possible to be a good leader and keep the prestigious name of his family. The same family that was about to lose his name and prestige because of his twin sister. So if you have studied as much as you say, you should know that if one of the Satans is a member of one of the parties, he cannot vote against the arranged marriage. That means that I could not vote against the marriage against Razor-kun and Rias. And without the full support of the 4 Satans, the arranged marriage can move forward. You're right. Brother Naruto said the last part with hatred and poison, but there is something that you forget, Lucifer. You are no longer part of the Gremory family, he said, making his brother's eyes open a little. You gave up our family at the time of taking over, Lucifer, which means that as long as you are not entirely speaking in favor of the Gremory family, your vote will be heard. Even if your support for your former family is shown, only they need the vote of the majority to declare whether the agreement continues or not. And besides that, it is not necessary the boto of all the Mao. With only the boto of 3 of the 4 is enough, Naruto said while looking at his brother. Surzek's eyes widened a bit at what his brother said. He was completely right. He was no longer part of the Gremory family, at least not officially, so he could vote against marriage without showing favoritism. I do not know what to say, he said, surprised. That is something that never happened before, he said while keeping his eyes wide open. He still could not believe that his younger brother in only 5 years had found the solution to a problem that had been overwhelming him and taking away that he had been dreaming for almost 20 years. He had spent hours reading all the books on politics and marriage contracts to find a solution to the problem of his little younger sister, but he could not find any. But his younger brother, in some way, in just 5 years he found the solution of that problem as if nothing. You are exactly right, Naruto, but if you knew about that, because you did not say anything? Because if you knew that you preferred to fight against Razor and the Rias peon? He asked. Little curious, an evil smile appeared on Naruto's face as he looked at his brother. Because I promised to cancel the marriage between Gremory and Razor. I promised that I would end all those who supported being false and got in my way, and that includes you, Lucifer. I also want you to remember, brother, that I always keep my promises, he said while making his eyes were as gorgeous as his hair. But that lasted only a few seconds, as the chain that he had around him, and the same room where he was, began to suck his magic quickly, which caused his eyes to return to normal. Seeing that things were getting difficult, Vanillana decided to speak while looking at both redheads. Well, you two, I think that's enough, Vanillana said while looking at her children. I brought you here to talk about your actions and your behaviors and not to start another fight, he said as he walked towards Naruto and knelt in front of him. Naruto, my baby, you do not know how much I miss you, he said as he kissed her forehead before looking into his eyes. I miss you too much, mother. I want you to forgive me for leaving you without saying anything. I did not know that my departure had caused you so much pain and suffering, he said, a little sad. Now, my child, there is nothing to forgive, because after all you saved your sister from her marriage against Razor, she said while stroking Naruto's red hair in the same way she did when he was smaller. I may not have liked the way you did it, but that does not change the fact that thanks to you your sister is free of that torment that was so overwhelming and made her suffer. The sadness on Naruto's face disappeared quickly when his mother said that last, frowning a little at him. I did not do it for her. I only did it so that our family was not mixed with the Phoenix. That was the only reason why I did it, he said, contradicting everything he had said previously. That's something I wanted to talk to you about, Naruto-kun. Why do you keep calling Rias just because of his last name? She asked as she looked into her son's blue eyes. She never understood because of the three of them he was the only one who had come out with blue eyes. Because you do not mean her as your sister? Naruto averted his gaze before speaking. Because she is not my sister anymore, she is nothing to me. For me she is just a person with my same name. A person who almost humiliates the good name of our family, he said while looking at the floor as if he were the most interesting thing in the world. Then Alana placed her hands on both sides of her son's face and forced him to look her directly in the eyes. Giving her a look at the blue eyes of this, she knew immediately that this was lying. She always knew when he was lying like that, like when he was hiding something from her, and right now she saw that he was doing both. Because you tried to lie to me, Naruto-kun. You know you've never been able to fool me, so tell me why. Why try? She said softly and quietly. Naruto looked at his mother's eyes, the eyes that always calmed him when he was a child, the same eyes that were always full of love and affection no matter the situation. Sighing, he prepared to speak. After all his mother would give, he tells if he lied to him or not, so for him to try. It did not matter how much he hated him or denied it, but his mother always knew when he was lying. You and mother, I will tell you everything, but only you. I do not want him to be present, he said while looking at his brother. Nodding, the chestnut rose and walked towards his eldest son. Placing a hand in front of him, a magic circle of red appeared and caused all the chains to fall to the ground before slowly disappearing. Looking at his firstborn son, she spoke. You can retire for now, Sirzex. But I hope you know that you and I have not yet finished. You still have to answer for the wounds to your brother's face, she said, making the older redhead swallowed. Creating a circle in her other hand, she made the door that kept the room sealed open for Sirzex to come out so she could be alone with Naruto. When she saw that her eldest son came out, she resealed the room so that no one could hear anything of what they were about to talk about. Well, Naruto now responds, because you hate your sister. Why is it that you do not want to know anything about Rias or that she calls you her brother? Because she betrayed me, the redhead said after remaining silent for a few seconds. Then Alana's eyes widened a bit as she watched her son. She tranced me, she lied to me, she said she would only love me and only me, but it was all a lie, all just empty words, he said while clenching his fists tightly. Why do you say that, Naruto? Why do you say that Rias betrayed you? Because it's the true mother. Because she promised that she would love me. But as soon as I turned my back, she did. She was willing to give her body to a reincarnated lower-class devil with no courage or power, and all for that. To get out of his marriage against Razor, he said angrily as he looked at his mother. I promised her that no matter that I would always protect her. I promised her I would take care of her because she is my younger sister. But now none of that matters. I'm sure you know that she was about to hand over her body to her pawn as if she were a kind of cheap whore. I'm also sure you know what would have happened if Wanisama had not stopped her. Not only the compromise between her and Razor was not cancelled, but also all the reputation, honor, reliability, and credibility of the Gremory house would have been lost forever, he said angrily at what his younger sister was about to. Were many things that the demons could bear, but that your future wife would give him his body to another that is not you is one that is never forgiven or forgotten. Something like that could lead to the ruin of a family. So his sister or not, he would not let anyone stain the name Gremory or even the Bale. And it is or it's something I would never allow. I will not allow our family's honor to fall or be fouled by the actions of a stupid girl like Rias. Then Alana frowned a little when she heard what her son was saying. If it is true that if the mother of his grandson had not interfered when Rias was about to give his body to his pawn, all the reputation of the Gremory family would be stained and destroyed. Even his family could have been expelled from the pillars by such a dishonorable act that her daughter was planning to do. She was very lucky that it was Grafia who found Rias, and not another person who could have said everything and ruined her family. But even with all that, she would not allow anyone to speak ill of your family or your daughter, not even your own child. I will not allow you to address your sister in that young way. She is your younger sister, and you have to protect her, take care of her, love her and respect her, and not the other way around, she said firmly. Like her mother, Naruto frowned. If she wants my respect, then she has to earn it just like everyone else, for my Sirzex and Rias are just people who share the same surname as me. They will have to fight and work very hard to earn my respect as well as my colleagues did it, and it does not matter what you say, mother. Nothing will change that, he said seriously. Seeing the look of his son, Alana frowned a little more. Naruto was always a stubborn boy and difficult to change his mind. When he proposed something, there was no one to change his mind. So there's nothing I can say to change your mind? She asked, making her son shake her head. Sighing, she placed her hand on her son's head, making all her bonds disappear, and he was free of all the restrictions that kept him in the chair. Naruto, I know that no matter what I say you will never change your mind. But I want you to look in your heart for the good memories you have of your sister and your brother. I know it's hard for you, but I want you sorry. I'm not saying that what she did is fine because she is not. I just like you. I'm upset about what she was about to do, but even you should know that Rias is just a young girl who was desperate for a solution to a problem that had been overwhelming her since she was very small. That's no excuse. I told her that I would always be there for her, that I would always protect her from everything including her commitment against Razor, and if she had spent more time training and all her nobility she could have won this fight, but no, she only started training them after Razor gave her a week to prepare for their fight. She was 5 years old, mother to train and prepare, but she did not. If in these 5 years she had trained everything the days as I did, she could have won her confrontation against the Phoenix, he said, making his mother's eyes open a little before they narrowed again. And as you know about that, she asked, knowing that there were only a handful of people who knew about the time frame that Razor had given Rias, much less even knew that she had taken her members to one of her many houses to train. You're spying on your sister again, she said, knowing that that would be the only way her son knew all that. You make it sound like I'm a pervert, or something like that, he said as he looked offended by what his mother said. Vanillana only smiled when she saw the face of her second oldest son. I'm not saying that, Naruto. I just say it because when your sister was smaller you were always stalking her so that nothing bad would happen to her, she said as she remembered all the times she found Naruto watching her younger sister so that he will not hurt himself while playing with his other friends. Naruto turned away to look away to not see the smiling face of his mother. He knew that she was right. The always that was not training or in his studies, he was always taking care of his sister, and who did not Arya? After everything was her little sister. I was not watching her. I have the members of my nobility scattered around the world doing different jobs. Thanks to that I know many things. The one that I found out about their fight against Razor was a coincidence, he said, making his mother nodded. Both mother and son remained silent for a few seconds until the redhead decided to speak. Then, he said, breaking the silence that had formed in the room. We can get out of this place. This place always gives me the creeps, he said, looking at the whole room painted white. A chill ran through Naruto's body when he saw a sweet smile on his mother's face. A smile that could even cause a person's diabetes. Of course we can get out of here, Naruto-kun, she said before a magic circle appeared in his right hand. But not before you receive your punishment for leaving home without permission and for fighting to the death with your brother. Naruto quickly got up from his chair and started to get away from his mother. The redhead started to walk back slowly, but unfortunately for him the road ended when his back hit the wall. Ka-chan, we can talk about this. There's no need for you to do this, he said nervously as he looked at the magical circle of red in his mother's hand and the smile on his face. Please do not do it, he begged while kneeling. Placing his hand on his son's face, Vanillana spoke with a sweet and gentle voice. Naruto, my baby, I'm not happy about this. I do not like this at all, she said while caressing his right cheek. This will hurt me more than Naruto. But you earned it for being a child bad, she said while continuing to stroke his cheek. So as punishment you get hit 1,000 lashes, she said before lifting her hand and letting it fall quickly. Half an hour later a sore Naruto was walking through the great hallways of the Gremory house. Next to him was his mother, who had a happy smile on his face as he walked happily beside him. Behind the heir and his mother could be seen a large group of maids who were with their heads bowed while offering their greetings and respect to both. The two were walking together since it was only 5 minutes since she had finished punishing him, and now they were both heading towards the living room of the Gremory house because according to one of the many maids that there were in the large mansion mysterious, they were looking for Naruto. Speaking of said redhead, a grimace of pain passed over his face as he massaged his aching backside. His mother had not had mercy on him. She was harsh and implacable to impart his punishment. She had whipped him exactly 1,000 times without stopping even once to rest. For him it would be the first time that his mother hit him or punished him in that way. She had never hit him before. No matter what he did or what he destroyed, she never put a finger over. He still could not believe the great strength that his mother had. He could not believe that behind the fragile and delicate body that his mother had she hid a great brute force. Auk, I still feel sore, the redhead complained to another grimace of pain. Looking at his smiling mother he spoke. This is the first time in my life that someone has hurt me so much without my being able to defend myself, he said as he turned a corner before continuing to walk. Vanillana looked at her son next to her before speaking. I'm very sorry for that, Naruto-kun, but that's your punishment for misbehaving. And I told you so, darling, she said as she placed a hand on her son's face. This hurt me more than you, she said affectionately. It was not easy for her to have to beat her son, but she had to teach him that her actions have consequences. She had to teach him that he could not only reach and do what he wants, and no one will fight to correct it. Yeah, well, I do not think so, the red-headed said. Mentor stopped in front of a large mahogany door. Opening it, saw a large group of people gathered inside the room. All seemed to be spread over 4 different sides. On the one hand was Rias, and the members of his nobility who turned to see him. In another corner, and not far from the redhead, was Sona, who was accompanied by a small group of people. In another corner, and in front of the heiress Citri, was his father along with his brother and sister-in-law, who stopped talking when they saw him, and his mother. Finally in the other corner were the members of his nobility who nodded when they saw him. A smile appeared on the redhead's face when he saw almost all the members of his nobility gathered. Looking towards one of the corner of the room, he smiled a little more broadly before starting to walk. Ria's eyes filled with happiness when she saw her older brother walking towards her. She could feel her heart speed up just by being in his presence. Since she had learned about what the feelings were, she had realized that she loved her brother. Whenever she was not with her other friends, she always liked being close to him, talking to him and spending time with him. She always went into her room to sleep near him since he made her feel safe and protected. Looking at him fixedly, she realized how much he had grown since the last time they saw each other. Now her face was more defined as well as her whole body. Taking a step forward, she spoke while looking at her brother higher. Naruto Oniai-san, thank you for. The redhead stopped when her brother, who was only 2 steps away from her, turned aside and walked towards her best friend and rival Sona Citri. Her eyes opened for a few seconds, Suddenly all the things her brother had told her before her fight began to get to her head. At first she had thought that it was all a bad dream, a nightmare. But oh, she prayed that she saw her brother pass by her without even paying her the slightest attention. She understood that everything was real, and that even though she did not want to believe it, her brother now hated her and despised her. Naruto ignored his twin sister and kept walking until he reached his destination. A smile reached his lips when he saw Sola, the heir of the Citri house. Staring at, he saw that she had now become more beautiful than before. Her hair was the same as the last time he saw her. Another thing that she had not changed was her eyes. Her violet eyes were still bright and full of curiosity and learning, and that was something that he always liked about her, not to mention that she was one of the most intelligent women he knew. "It's good to see you again, Sona-san," he said formally as he looked at the beautiful, violet-colored eyes of his fiancée. Sona smiled a little while looking at Naruto's beautiful blue eyes. "The same as Naruto-san. I also see that you managed to get strong partners," she said with a smile on her face, a smile that disappeared when she saw that Naruto had frowned while staring at her. "What's the matter, Naruto-san? Is there something wrong with my face?" she asked, a little confused. "Yes, in fact there," he said, confusing many, since in the face of the girl there was nothing. In fact, anyone who looked at her could say that she was a beauty without equal with a perfect face. Bringing his hands to the girl's face, the redhead took off his glasses before smiling a little. "Now yes, that's way better," he said as he folded his glasses and put them in his pocket. "Undoubtedly your most beautiful Tevis without those Sona-san glasses," he said before approaching her, and without any warning he kissed her on the lips. Sona's eyes opened when Naruto's lips met hers. After a few seconds she began to close her eyes and answer the kiss that the redhead was giving her. Almost everyone present was surprised when they saw how the couple of heirs were kissing, but no one was more surprised than Rias. The second in the line of succession of the Gremory house had her eyes open until she could not, from her place she could not do anything but watch helplessly as her older brother and her best friend kissed in front of her. A twinge of pain flooded her heart when she remembered the way her brother ignored her. For him it was as if she did not exist. The pain in her heart only increased when she saw the way her brother kissed Sona. She could not help but jealousy and resentment seized her. But despite everything she tried to control herself. She could not make a scandal in front of her parents and all the other people present. And as much as it hurt, she would have to endure seeing her brother kissing her best friend. The kiss between Naruto and Sona lasted almost 3 minutes. But unfortunately for the redhead and the brunette, the lack of oxygen caused them both to separate. After the two parted, a smile appeared on Naruto's face. A smile that widened when he saw Sona's flushed face, hugging her tightly. He approached her before getting close to her ear to whisper something. "You do not know the time I have waiting to do this, Sona-chan," he said in a soft and gentle voice. Sona's blush increased a bit more when she felt Naruto's muscles above her clothes. She could feel slightly of her fiancé's muscular and toned body. Placing her arms around his neck, she enjoyed the heat that exuded the body of the redhead, a warmth that made her feel quality and secure. "I'm also happy to see you again, Naruto. I thought you could not get there in time," she said softly so that no one would hear her. After all, she did not want anyone to know her secret and the redhead's. Squeezing the girl in her arms a little more, Naruto spoke. "If you import the distance and the obstacles, I will always go to your call, Sona-chan," he said, making Sona assume a happy smile on his flushed face. "Hey, who are you and why are you hugging Sona Kaichu?" The happy, quiet speaker between Sona and Naruto was interrupted by a voice behind the black-haired girl. A frown appeared on Naruto's face when he heard the boy yell at him, moving away from Sona, and he turned his gaze to the only boy who was with Sona's group. The boy who had shouted earlier was looking at the redhead with a frown. He and all his other companions nobleza who was to know who was the boy with red hair, and because he was kissing his leader. Naruto stood in his place while staring at the boy who had yelled at him. "You are Saji Genshiro, the newest pawn of Sona and the last one to join his group?" he asked, making the boy open his eyes a little. "How do you know about that?" the surprised man asked. A strange smile appeared on Naruto's face as he continued to stare at the boy. "Because I should not. After all, I have to meet all the members of the nobility of my fiancé, Genshiro-san," he said, surprising everyone who did not know that he was Sona's fiancé. Surprise and disbelief was clearly visible on Saji's face and everyone else who did not know about that fact. None of them could believe that their leader was destined to marry his best friend's brother, and that she had not told them about none of that. "You are Sona-sama's fiancé?" asked a girl with glasses while looking at a smiling Naruto. The redhead nodded as he looked at the dark-haired girl. "That's Tsubaki-san. I'm Sona-san's fiancé, and I also know you're his queen," he said as he took Sona's glasses out of his pocket and put them on his face. Raising his right hand, he opened his palm, and a few seconds later a magic circle appeared and spit out some lenses very similar to those he used before his fight against Razor and Rias Pion. Looking at the lenses in his hand, he turned and placed them to Sona. "No doubt these are much better," he said with a smile on his face. "So you keep those while I keep these as a welcome gift," he said before taking off his glasses and putting them in his pocket again. Naruto's smile disappeared quickly when he felt a very familiar magical energy a few steps away from him. He had tried to avoid all contact with that person, but apparently that would not be possible. So turning around, he looked at the person who had caught his attention. "Naruto, my son, it's good to see you again after 5 years," Lord Gremory said as he approached his son with open arms. He had realized that his son had been avoiding him since he entered the room. He knew that he was upset with him, so he decided to face it and end all this. Naruto looked at his father for a few seconds before a smile appeared on his face. Walking towards the leader of the house Gremory, he opened his arms to give a hug to his father. "It's also good to see you, father," he said, and when he was 2 steps away from the man he moved his quickly and introduced his fist in the stomach of his father, causing him to fall on his knees on the floor while holding his stomach. Turning quickly, the kick to his father in the head and sent him to hit a wall. The eyes of all but Venelanas were opened when they saw the redhead attacking his father. The old Bale just shook his head amused as he watched his husband and son fight. She knew he would be something like that when he was with her father. He may never have been able to raise a hand against her, but against her husband it was something very different. "Do not dare to stop them," she said when she saw that Rias and Surzex were about to intervene and stop them. "But Okasama, we cannot let Tusama and Naruto keep fighting," Surzex said when he saw that his brother was sent to crash into a family painting. "Onisama is right. We cannot let Onisan keep fighting with our father," Rias said with eyes full of concern for her second elder brother. "I know this is difficult for all of you, but this is something they have to solve," she said before sitting in a nearby chair. "Grafia, could you bring me some tea, please?" she asked, making the silver-haired woman nod and go to the kitchen. Naruto stared at his father, who had recovered from a strong blow to the face. "That was to establish an arranged marriage between the Gremory and Phoenix houses," he said as he looked at the man who despite everything was smiling at him. "I knew you Arias something like that, Naruto," the man said before wincing. "Your strength has increased a lot since we last met," he said as he showed her a bruise that had formed on her face. "Yes, and you still have not seen anything," the redhead said as he clenched his fists again. Running to his father again, he raised his hand ready to hit his father in the face again. But before doing so, he stopped his hand a few centimeters of the redhead's face. Opening the palm of his hand, a magic circle formed in the palm of the redhead, and a bottle of wine came out of it. "And this is to establish a compromise between the houses Citri and Gremory," he said with a smile on his face. Lord Gremory's eyes widened when he saw the bottle of wine in his son's hand. He could not believe what his eyes were seeing. "This is an Aurum Red 1990 special edition. It is said that this is the best wine in the world ever created and the most coveted by collectors around the world," he said as he gently took the bottle, as if this was the most delicate thing from all over the world. Looking at his son, he spoke. "As you got it, they only made 5 of these and they were sold many years ago." A smile appeared on the face of the redhead when he saw the happy face that his father had put. He always knew that his father enjoyed a good wine and that he only collected the best. The man had a cellar full of all types of wine from all parts of the human world. He also knew that this was one of the ones he most wanted for his collection. "A client gives me a gift as a payment to fulfill a wish," he said as he shrugged. "Naruto, my boy, you do not know how happy you have made your father with this gift," Lord Gremory said, still smiling. "Now I can finally show off to Lord Citri that my collection is much better than his," he said before to disappear in a magic circle. A drop of sweat rolled over both Naruto's head and that of his mother's. Knowing his father, the redhead knew that possibly he would go to the house of the Citri to show off his new acquisition. "Wait," Saji said after emerging from the shock that the news of his king's engagement with the heir Gremory had caused him. "Like your fiancé? When did that happen, and how do you know our names if we have never seen each other?" he asked, making his partners Rias nod. They also wanted to know about how the heir knew about them if they had never seen each other. They had realized that the redhead seemed to know all their names and the pieces that each of them had. Sona remained silent while watching how everything developed. Of all the people in the room, she was the only one who always had contact with the redhead. They always communicated by means of letters that they sent once every so often, but in none of them she told him about her nobility, or those who compose her, just as he never told her who composed his. So like everyone else, she was also full of curiosity to know how Naruto knows her, the members of his nobility. "Sona-san and I are engaged since our parents told us about the arranged marriage between us," he said as he put his hands in his pockets. "Now as I know their names, is a secret that I will not tell you about. None of you," he said as he walked towards the members of his nobility. "Standing next to them I speak. Now that you are all here, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce you to the members of my nobility," he said as he looked at everyone, especially Sona and her sister whom he saw who was angry. "Maybe some of you already know him, but he presented them formally to Rin Okamura, and he is the only knight in my nobility," he said, making the blue-haired boy nod in greeting. "The next one is one of my pawns and also my relative, Drogon the winged beast," he said as they all looked at the dark-skinned boy. Drogon had the appearance of a young man with dark skin and blonde hair, platinum and blue eyes. He wears a dark blue jacket with a hood, under which he wears a yellow shirt with a black tie. Wear black boots and black cargo pants with a chain chained to your pocket. Just think of Soma the God Eater. Wait a minute, Issy's noisy voice was heard which caused everyone to look at him. "You're saying he's Drogon?" he asked as he pointed to the dark-skinned boy who was looking at him in passing. Looking at his leader, Rin saw that he would not respond to the boy, so he decided to do it for him. "This is Issei-san. He is Drogon when he is in his human form." "Human form?" said Saji, confused. "The dragons have a human form?" he asked while looking at the blue-haired boy. Rin looked at his leader who nodded. Turning his face to the blonde boy, he spoke. "That's right, all dragons have a human form. Only some do not have enough power to transform, he said while looking at the blonde. But I'm surprised that you being Vitra's carrier and being the Drake carrier do not know. That's the most basic knowledge there about dragons. In fact, all secret gird bearers who have the soul of a dragon inside they know it, he said, a little surprised that both boys did not know that. Do not be surprised so much, Rin. After all, you cannot expect much of a reincarnated demon who wants to become the king harem, and the other who is hopelessly in love with their leader, he said while giving a hard look to both boys. People like you are the ones who make the renegade demons who are fighting every day to improve, be recognized and climb class, said Naruto, a little annoyed. He had nothing against the reincarnated demons. In fact, a couple of his friends from when he was younger were reincarnated. But people like these guys and Razor are the ones who make the demons renegade and the blood demons pure, and that he did not tolerate. Isai frowned and clenched his fists tightly as he looked at Naruto, who gave him the right to at least appreciate him without even knowing him. From the first moment he heard him speak, he knew that the redhead would not like him. And not caring that he is the elder brother of his king and the heir of the Gremory house, he would not let him speak to him in that way, or at least precede him. So, and you do not know anything about me. You do not know anything about what I had to do to get here or how hard I trained to get this power, Issei said angrily. I know more than you think, child. Your full name is Issei Hayato, and until recently you were just a simple second-level student at Ku Academy who spent time spying on girls while they were changing, Naruto said, causing more than one of the women present to give Issei a nasty look for what he was doing. You were turned into a demon after Gremory-san resurrected you using all his 8 pieces of pawn. Since then you confronted and you lost against several fallen angels and a former exorcist of the church, he said, making the eyes of everyone who was with his sister to open. For them it was as if the redhead was spying on them all this time, as if he had been with them in every moment. What about Hayato Ponins? Do you think I do not get enough about you? I know a lot about you and all your teammates, and unlike your leader I do care about the training of my nobility, he said as he gave a hard look to his sister. Thanks to that, almost all my companions are at least at the level of a middle-class demon, while Drogon-san is at the level of a high class, he said, surprising everyone present because they were so powerful, the redhead's companions. But I do not know why I waste my time talking to a person who never goes from being a low-class demon. Issei frowned while looking at the redhead in front of him, and without him ordering, his secret gear appeared in his hand and began to shine. You want to fight, fear, because this time I'll beat you and you're going to swallow your. Issei fell immediately as several swords appeared and began to spin around his neck. Almost everyone in the room was surprised when they saw the 6 swords around the chestnut neck. All the swords looked old, and they were all spinning around Issei's neck. They all saw that with only one wrong step and the chestnut tree would end up rolling on the ground. You are a very noisy person to be so weak. People like you should learn their place in the world, said a melodious voice behind Naruto. Directing his attention to the person who had spoken, everyone realized that this person was a woman. She was wearing a black military hat and a Spanish-style double-sized coat, iron gloves, a red band and boots. Black. In her left hand she had a Soviet submachine gun PPSH-41, while in her right she had a sword very similar to the one that revolved around Issei's neck. Physically she is a thin woman, with white skin and average height. Her hair was long and white, in which she uses a long red ribbon to make pigtails. But what most caught everyone's attention were their strange eyes, since they were red penetrating, which had a blue-green box in them. Those eyes were giving Issei a cold, unpleasant look, a look that caused the pawn to feel like he was facing a powerful predator who was waiting for him to make a move to launch himself at him. The white-haired girl narrowed her eyes a bit more as she looked at the chestnut tree. Maybe I should separate your head from your shoulders so that you and everyone present here will learn to respect their superiors, she said, making everyone tense a bit. Especially Rias, who did not dare to do anything for fear that if she do something his pawn would end up losing his head. The redhead was not stupid. She could feel the power of the girl in front of her. Just by seeing her eyes she could see that she was much stronger than her, and much stronger than almost everyone in the room. But fortunately for everyone, before the woman could do something drastic against Issei, she was stopped by Naruto, who gave her a firm look. Both young men stared at each other for a few seconds. Blue looked at the strange red and green eyes of the girl in front of him. Releasing a little of his power, the heir Gremory spoke. Easy, Altair. There is no need to waste time with a person who is far below your level, the redhead said while looking at the girl in front of him without blinking. The named Altair stared at Naruto's eyes for a second before snapping her teeth and making both her swords and her weapon disappear. Directing her gaze to the chestnut, she spoke. You saw luck this time, kid, she said before looking at her king's sister. As for you, Gremory, I would advise you to keep your pawn well controlled. I will not accept more disrespect against my king or anyone who accompanies us, she said before disappearing into a circle of blue. Naruto sighed when he saw how the girl disappeared before his eyes. Shaking his head a bit, he directed his gaze towards his knight. Rin, please could you find Altair for me? He said, making the blue-haired boy nod. Well, when you find her, take her home and do not let her go. I do not want her to be in the mood she's in. Find her crazy, he said, making Rin nod and also disappear in a circle of blue. After the boy disappeared, the entire room was filled with an uncomfortable silence. A silence that was interrupted when Naruto's mother took a couple of steps towards him. Naruto, who was that girl? She asked as she looked at her son. That was Altair, my queen and one of the strongest people in nobility. She's almost as strong as me, he said before pausing. No, she is maybe much stronger than me, And now, thanks to the actions of the useless Gremory-san, she is upset, and now I have to finish my meeting here to try to calm her down before she kills someone, he said as he created a circle under his feet. Directing his gaze from his mother to Sona, he spoke. See you soon, Sona-san. I have a very important issue to talk to you, he said before disappearing from the room. Sona Citri, second daughter of the House Citri, and the sole heiress of that house, was sitting as usual in his personal office within the club of the student council, and as usual she was signing some important documents. Next to her was his faithful and loyal Queen Tsubaki, who had in his hands some documents that she had already signed. Suddenly a red light appeared in the middle of the room, which caused the attention of both women to address the light that had appeared. Both were surprised when a magic circle with the symbol of the House Gremory was formed in the middle of the room, which was impossible since the whole room was protected with a magic barrier which prevented anyone who did not belong to the Citri family from being transported inside it. Sona's eyes widened a little when she saw the person who had left the magic circle. Naruto-san, what are you doing here and how could you get into this room? She asked, a little surprised by how Naruto managed to enter the room so easily. Naruto just smiled before walking and sitting in a chair facing Sona. I told you that we would see each other soon, Sona-san. Also remember that I learned how to teleport using Citri circles when I was 5 years old, or maybe you do not remember that I always found you when you hid inside your house, he said with a smile on his face. Sona under his pen while looking at the redhead in front of her. Yes, now I remember, she said as she crossed her hands in front of her face. But for future visits, I'd like you to use the door as a normal person, she said seriously, making him nod. Now could you tell me what is the reason for your visit? She asked as she stared at him. Naruto looked at the girl in front of him before turning his gaze to the queen of his fiancé. Tsubaki-san, you think you could give us a moment alone to me and Sona-san, the redhead asked with a small smile on his face. Tsubaki looked at her king, who nodded, assuring her that she would be fine and that she could leave. Nodding in return, the black-haired girl left the room, leaving both heirs alone. Well, Naruto-san, it's so important that you needed my queen to come out and leave us alone. Naruto nodded as he looked at the serious face that Sona had on his face. I need you to introduce me and the members of my nobility as exchange students in this academy, he said seriously as he looked at the girl in front of him. Sona was a little surprised by Naruto's request, but still she did not let her surprise be visible on her face and tried to keep her expression calm and neutral as she looked at her fiancé. Because you want to be in this Naruto-san academy, maybe it's to watch Rias and her nobility, she said, making the redhead frowns. At the moment, Gremory-san and her nobility could be less important to me, Sona-san. My reasons why I want to enter this academy are much bigger and more important than her, Naruto said seriously, and a little annoyed by what Sona said. So if it's not for your sister, you could tell me what are the reasons you have in this place, Sona asked, a little curious. A smile appeared on Naruto's face as he looked at the girl in front of him. Good try, Sona-san, but that will not work. I will not tell you my reasons. But if I tell you that if you help me with this I could help you with your little school problem, he said, making her narrow her eyes a bit. How do you know about that? She asked as she looked at the redhead in front of her. She had realized that he had changed a lot since the last time they saw and talked. As I said earlier, Sona-san, there are many things that I know. One of them is that in order to make your dream of creating an academy in the underworld to teach the reincarnated demons and demons about our history, how to use their magic, and about the classification games succeed, you need the support of at least 3 pillar families and the approval of all the Mao, he said as he watched as she frowned a little more. So if you help me with that, i.e. future leader of Casa Gremory, I can give you our support so that you can continue with your plan. Also if you help me I can get the House Bail and the House Astaroth support you too, he said as he leaned forward and placed his arms on Sona's desk. Sona looked at the redhead in front of her as she thought about her proposal. She had been for years looking for the support of the other families of the pillar so that they would support her idea. She had also spent hours in her family's library while looking for the way to make someone support their idea, which would not only help the reincarnated demons to be better prepared for their new life but could also help the kings to unite more with their servants, and thus have a united and well-trained and educated nobility. But she had not found anything she could use. And now Naruto appears after 5 years telling him that he could easily solve his problem in exchange for a small insignificant favor. Looking directly into her eyes she spoke. As tempting as your offer may sound, I need to decline, Naruto-san. I cannot accept your offer, however favorable it may be for me. If I decided to accept your help, then it would look like you as my fiancé are solving my problems, and that's something I'm not willing to tolerate. If I accept your help, then no one will take me seriously, and only see me as a woman who needs her husband to solve all their problems for her. I speak very seriously while looking at Naruto straight in the eyes. Naruto would have been surprised by the refusal of the short-haired girl if he did not know she would say that. He knew Sona very well to know that she was not willing to let him solve her problem for her. So seeing that his plan A did not work, then he would use his plan B. I understand what you say and I respect Sona-san, but see this in the following way. If you allow me to roam this academy freely, I will transfer to you the favors that the leaders of the Bail and Astaroth houses must. And in view of the support of the Gremory house, you could see it as an advanced wedding gift. For a second Sona's face turned red when Naruto mentioned the word wedding. She knew that she was engaged to him, and that someday she would have to marry him. But she had never thought much about it, not until now that when the academy was ending. She knew that as soon as she graduated she would have to return to the earthly world to assume her position as leader of her family, and later as Naruto's wife. At least that was what he and she agreed to the last once they saw each other. If you put it that way, we may come to an agreement, she said, making Naruto smile a little. But first of all, Naruto-san, I'd like to know why you came to me. Because not just go to the director of the academy and talk about this with the— That's very simple, Sona-san, Naruto said as he shrugged. Because both you and I know that the real person who controls this academy is you. You are the one who decides who studies and who does not study in this academy, while the director is only a human working for both families with little knowledge about our world. He only finds himself as a decorative figure and the public face of this academy, while your one young heiress is the one who controls everything from the shadows. You've changed a lot, Naruto-san. Anyone who saw you would not think you're the same child who disappeared 5 years ago, she said, a little stunned. These 5 years have made me change and rethink my life, Sona-san, he said as he got up from his chair. My plan is not only to continue with the good legacy of the Gremory family but also to make this the most important family in the entire earthly world and the human world. After all, when my father retires I will have to take care of all the businesses and companies that my family handles, he said while fixing his clothes a little. After that he directed his gaze to his fiancée. But tell me, Sona-san, do we have an agreement or not? If we have, Naruto-san, you just have to give me the necessary documents, and I'll take care of the rest, she said as she got up and offered her hand to the redhead. Naruto squeezed Sona's hand before bending over and kissing her on the back of it. My gentleman Rin will take care of bringing the documents later. In them the names that we will use while we are here will appear as well as the classes that we will take. I also need you to provide me with a club which we can use my companions and me to meet without raising suspicions. Nobody, he said, making Sona nod. As I told you, Naruto-san, I'll take care of everything, she said as she watched as he nodded and went out the door, and even after the redhead left she stayed standing until she stopped feeling the magic of the redhead. So soon she realized that he was far away she dropped into her seat. Sighing she took his hand to his heart, which was beating 1,000 beats per second. Because whenever I see him my heart gets so close. No matter how much time passes or when I see him I still cannot stop feeling like a girl in love when he is close to me, she thought while I closed my eyes. Why is it that your presence affects me so much, Naruto-kun said as he brought his hands to his lips and remembered the kiss they had given a few days ago. Without Sona noticing, a person had witnessed the whole meeting between her and the redhead. The person frowned when he saw the dreamy expression that was on the face of the heir Citri. Clenching his fists strongly, the person turned and a couple of bat wings appeared on his back before using it to fly off and take off to an unknown location. I will not let you stay with Naruto, Citri. Nor you or anyone else take me away from Naruto, the person told himself before disappearing into the blue sky. Very well, students, listen well and pay attention. A middle-aged woman while looking at all her students. I know this is a bit unusual, but today we will have 2 new students who were transferred here from Rome, she said as she looked at all of her students, who immediately heard that they started talking quickly to each other. 2 new students, that's strange. Yes, I just hope they are a very hot pair of girls. I hope they are 2 boys. There are already enough girls and few boys to choose. A blonde girl said while looking at her partner, who nodded in agreement. I understand you very well, my friends. The few beautiful boys there are already have a girlfriend, and those that remain are some perverts, she spoke while looking at her best friend. Clapping the teacher several times caused all the conversations to stop and everyone to turn around to see her. Well, now that you are a little calmer, I would like to ask our new students to come and introduce themselves to everyone, she said, and 2 seconds later the door opened to show 2 boys dressed in the school uniform of the academy. As soon as the 2 boys entered the classroom, it was filled with the cries of emotion from all the girls and some boys who were in the classroom. All the girls screamed with joy because the new students were not only 2 boys but that was also very handsome. They're so cute. The dark-skinned boy is so sexy. I want to be his girlfriend. I think I'm in love, a boy said with hearts in his eyes as he looked at what his new classmates would be. Many of the other boys who were close to the one who had spoken quickly moved away from it. Damn cute boys. Both students were only left with a look without emotions while listening to the screams and comments of everyone present. While outside they both had a look if emotions. Inside were cursing their fate of being in the same classroom as a lot of girls' fans. They were also cursing the person who had made them attend this academy. Clapping again, but now stronger than before, the teacher managed to make everyone shut up again. Girls, please calm down your hormones a bit and let the new students introduce themselves properly, she said before looking at the 2 boys. Go ahead, Okamura-san, Shikisal-san, he said as he looked at the 2 boys who nodded at the same time. Rin nodded as he stepped forward and looked at all the boys and girls in front of him. My name is Rin Okamura. I'm 16, I'm from Okinawa but I grew up in Rome, was the only thing he said as he stepped back and stood next to his partner. Seeing it was his turn, Drogon stepped forward while looking at all the girls in the room. My name's Soma Shikisal, Drogon said while using the name he and Naruto had invented for when he was in his human form. And that's all I'll say, he said indifferently, which caused all the girls in the room to scream like a girl fan, which caused him to bother him a little more. While his classmates shouted like crazy, Issei had wide eyes while looking at the 2 boys who would be in his class. As soon as he saw them he recognized them as members of the nobility of his king's brother. His eyes they opened a little more when he saw that Drogon was staring at him to see if he dared to say anything. But as much as he wanted to say something he could not because the surprise was so great that he would not let him gesture any word. A smile seemed on Drogon's face when he saw the fear in Draeng's wearer. From the first time he saw the boy he saw that he was Deadle, Perhaps the weakest person he has ever seen in his life, and perhaps the carrier more pathetic than his companion dragon has had. Using his sensory powers, he felt that the boy's level of magic power was very low, and his control was almost non-existent. If the boy was a disgrace not only to the bearers of secret gear but also to the reincarnated demons, that without counting his list of skills which left much to be desired. Seeing that both boys had finished their presentations and that they no longer wanted to say anything else, the woman nodded before speaking. "Thank you for your Okamura-san presentation, Shixal-san," she said before looking around the room as she searched for the perfect place for both boys. After a few seconds she found the perfect places for them. "Now I need Shixal-san to sit behind Hayata-san while Okamura-san sits behind Minami-san," she said, causing both students to raise their hands so they know who was who. Drogon's face showed a slight frown as he looked at the boy behind him. He would have to sit down. Walking towards him, he sat in the seat behind him before directing his gaze to the front where his teacher was. "If you dare to speak to me or even mention that sometimes we have seen each other, I kill you, understood?" he said when he saw that the boy turned and so he could talk to him. Swallowing the chestnut, "I look at the dark-skinned boy." Yes, said Issei, a little scared and in a shaky voice. Listening to the sound of wood being destroyed under his gaze, only to see how Drogon's right hand had changed from a normal human hand to a black draconian hand with large sharp claws. The same sharp claws that had created a hole in the dark-skinned boy's desk. Swallowing again, he turned and looked straight ahead. He could feel the dragon's gaze behind him. He could also feel that another person was looking at him. Turning his head, he saw that other person was none other than Drogon's companion, who was giving him a happy smile. Or that was what he expected it to be. Turning again, he looked at his teacher. Sweat began to accumulate on his forehead. He felt like a cornered and helpless animal. After seeing that the two new students were sitting in their respective places, the teacher spoke with a smile on her face. "Well, now there will be her history books on page 201, she said, making everyone nod and take out their books. All but Issei took out their books and began to look for the page that their teacher told them. The poor pawn of Rias Gremory was still with his eyes still in shock as he kept looking at the front of the room. His hands were shaking uncontrollably at the look that they were giving both the pawn and the Knight of King's brother. "This has to be a joke. Please someone tell me it's a damn joke," Naruto thought, a bit annoyed while looking at all the boys and girls in front of him. Many of the girls had hearts in their eyes while the most of the boys had the frown while they looked at him. But that was not what was bothering him. What really was bothering Naruto was really the person who was in the same room as him. Sitting in front of him was his fiancée Sona, and next to her was the queen of his sister Akino. But also sitting in it rode at the black head, and only a few chairs further back was her younger sister Rias Gremory, who had a surprised look on her face. Looking at his fiancée, he frowned a little more as he observed that she was giving him a weak and innocent smile. A smile that was not deceiving the redhead, since just seeing the smile of his fiancée he could see that she had placed him in the same room as her sister intentionally. She placed him in the same room as her sister, perhaps for him to spend more time with her and thus try to fix their relationship, which would never happen. He would never forgive his sister, not after what she had done to him. "Well, Uzumaki-san, you can take the seat next to Gremory-san," said the man who would be his teacher while he was studying at the academy. Just like Drogon had changed his name, so while he was at the academy that he would use Naruto Uzumaki's name since he didn't want anyone to connect him with his sister. The last thing he wanted was for someone to start asking him about her or for any idiot to approach him to make friends with him, and maybe so he could get a date with the redhead. While Yushimazaki-san sat next to Kane-san, the teacher said as he looked at Altair, who nodded before starting to walk to his designated place. Throughout the time that Altair was walking, she kept looking at Rias with an unpleasant look, a look that the redhead gave back while looking at her without blinking. Raising his power a little, the redhead made all the demons in the room stare at him, but he ignored them, almost everyone, and only concentrated on his queen, who he looked at. That caused her to calm down a little and sit quietly in his seat. After squitting his queen, Naruto began to walk towards his place. Passing by Sona's desk, he placed his hand on it before continuing on his way to his seat where he sat before starting to look out the window. Looking at her desk, Sona noticed that something had begun to be written on it. A few seconds later, a smile appeared on her face when she saw what her fiancé had written on her desk. Placing her hand on the writing, she used her powers to make everything Naruto had written disappeared. Looking out the window, she could see Naruto's reflection and realized that he was looking at her. Smiling a little, she winked before turning her face to see her teacher, who had started with the class again. Naruto Gremory had never been as bored in his life as he was right now. He had spent most of the day sitting at his desk while listening to the endless and boring lectures his different teachers were giving him, to which we had to add the constant glances of love from his companions, the looks of hatred from his companions, and the annoying look of Rias, who turned to see him every 5 minutes, which was making him angry a little. The redhead cursed his luck because if it wasn't for the fact that being in this academy he could fulfill part of his plans, he never set foot in the place. He had already had enough studies with his mother for 2 lives. Looking at the clock, he saw that there was still half an hour left for his last class. So picking up all his things, he got up from his seat and started walking towards the exit, which caused everyone to leave what they were doing to stare at him. "Excuse Uzumaki-san, where do you think he is going?" the teacher asked while looking at the redhead, who along with the girl had entered with a special permission from the principal. "Perhaps it is not obvious. I get out of here. I can't stand being one more minute in this hateful place with all these people," he said before leaving and closing the door behind him. The whole room was silent as they looked at the door where Naruto had left. For almost 3 minutes nobody said anything and they just stared at the white sliding door. After a few more seconds of silence, all the ordeal broke loose. "Kya, that's cool. That was amazing. I think I'm in love," cursed Kaki. For 5 minutes the room was filled with all kinds of comments about the redhead and his departure. The uproar and the scandal for what the redhead did was so great that no one gave up that Altair was not in the room. After leaving his classroom, Naruto went to the club that would be using his nobility as a facade to cover up his true activities, as well as his sister with his research, an occult club, and his fiancée with the student council. He had asked Sona for a club where he could meet with the members of his nobility without raising suspicion of any other person. The name he had chosen for his club was the Games Club, and no one other than his nobility was in it. Is not that he would accept the requests of people who wanted to join him. The last thing he wanted was for a human to be around the whole place. So for more protection he had placed barrier bars all over the place which prevented that any person or demon who was not in his nobility could enter, and that included his sister and his fiancée. Entering the club, the blonde realized that he was not the only one who had left before class. He smiled a little when he saw his best friend Rin sitting next to Drogon, who was reading a book that talked about the different families that made up the pillars of the underworld, and their stories and powers. "Hi guys, how was your first day of study?" he asked as he sat at his desk, which was brought directly from the underworld. After all, that was the only place where you could get the best wood in the world. "This is shit, Naruto. I still don't understand why we should be doing this," Drogon asked as he set his book aside and looked at his partner and leader. "How bad was it?" the blonde asked while taking a book that talked about the origin and history of the Gremory family. He had already finished reading the book that talked about the Bale family and its power of destruction. "We played the same classroom as Rias Gremory's pawn," he said, making Naruto's ear move a little. Naruto left what he was doing and looked up to look at his pawn and his knight. "Are you talking seriously?" he asked as he looked at both boys, who nodded. Leaning back in his seat, he closed his eyes before sighing a little. "So it's Sona's plan," he said as he opened his eyes and looked at the roof of his club. "She wants us to get acquainted with Rias and her nobility. That's why she put you in the same room as her pawn and Altair, and I put ourselves in the same room as she and Rias," he said, making both boys look at him with their eyes a little open. "You're serious, Naruto? Sona Citri did all this on purpose?" Rin asked as he looked at the redhead, who didn't seem affected by that. "That's my brothers. Sona Citri made fun of me and used me as she wanted," he said as he smiled a little. "Then you love Naruto. Maybe you'll let this go on like this," Drogon said angrily. "Perhaps you will let Sona manipulate you that way. For now," he said before putting a serious look on his face. "Then I can take care of Sona. But for now I will let her play her game while we concentrate on our work. We have to finish this soon before something bad happens," he said as he began to read his book again. "But you know, lately I've been thinking about the day we met, the day I met each of you," he said as he felt like Altair appeared behind him. But still he didn't look away from his book. A small smile appeared on Rin's face. Raising his arm, he placed the palm of his hand in front of him. He clenched his fist for a few seconds before opening it, causing the entire room to light up with a small blue light. "Yes, I've also been thinking about the past a bit," Rin said as she continued to look at her hand covered in a blue fire. Flashback. 2 months, 2 long and boring months had passed since Naruto had escaped from his house without saying anything to anyone. During those 2 months nothing interesting had happened to him. And since he had left home he had only taken care of a pair of parabolic demons which he easily destroyed. None of them were rivals for him, or his family power. All the parabolic demons that he faced were just low-class demons. The redhead stopped and stepped out of the lane of thought when he heard a loud roar followed by a cry of pain. Walked towards the place where he had heard the scream. The redhead hid behind a wall just in time to prevent a demon from paralyzing it will crash against him. The redhead could not help being fascinated when he saw a boy of his same age set on fire, a blue fire which he seemed to dominate a little. His fascination leveled up when he saw what looked like a tail hanging on his back. He also had a sword which, like the boy, was set on fire. The boy on fire raised his sword and dropped it on the head of the demon, causing it to scream for a few seconds before catching on fire. The fire lasted only a few seconds, and when it went out the only thing left of the demon was a small part of black meat, scorched and unrecognizable. After he had finished his work, the black-haired boy holstered his sword, making all the fire that covered it completely disappear. Giving one last look to the demon that he had destroyed, he turned and left with an unknown destiny. Following the boy, Naruto saw that this led him to where he seemed to reside. The redhead could not help raising one of his eyebrows when he saw that what looked like the boy's house was nothing more than an abandoned and semi-destroyed church, which it had a large hole about the size of a vehicle, several broken windows, a destroyed wall, and the main door was not there either. The last thing and what attracted the most attention to the church was a yellow ribbon, the same tape that the police put every time there was a homicide somewhere. Walking towards one of the destroyed windows, the redhead looked through it and saw the blue-haired boy sitting on a bench. Next to him there was a mark in the shape of a person's body, a person who had been killed. Raising his head quickly, the boy looked out the destroyed window. "Who's there?" the blue-haired boy asked while out the window, but didn't see anyone. "Don't hide, I know you're there," he said as he took his sword. Seeing that it was not worth keeping hidden, Naruto left where he was and began to walk to the door of the church. Entering, he placed himself at a considerable distance from the boy who was staring at him all the time. After he entered the church, he felt his skin tingle and his instincts went crazy and yelled at him to leave the place. He also felt great pressure on him. But even so, he tried to ignore all that as well as possible and only concentrated on the boy in front of him. "Who are you and why are you spying on me?" asked the boy with the sword while looking at the redhead. Raising my hands, the Gremory spoke, looked the boy directly in the eyes before speaking. "I'm sorry for that. I had no intention of spying on you or bothering you, but what happens was that I was on my way when I saw your fight against that parasito demon." "Do you know what they are?" asked the surprised boy while looking at the redhead, who nodded. "How do you know about them?" "I know about them because, like them, I am also a demon," he said, and so quickly those words came out of his mouth to move the tube to prevent the boy from cutting him in two with his sword. "Hey, calm down, I'm not here to fight you. I just want to talk," Naruto said, but his words were not heard by the boy who tried to cut him again. The redhead rolled a little on the ground before getting up and taking one of the seats that were close to him, quickly turning the punch to the boy in the center of the chest and sent him to hit a wall. Grabbing the bench with both hands, the redhead waited 1 second before throwing it with all his strength. The blue-haired boy watched as the seat was heading towards him quickly, using his sword and short in half, but as soon as he did that, he was hitting in the face by the red-haired boy and sent through the wall. "He is very strong. He is stronger than all the demons against whom I have been fighting," he thought as he looked at Naruto, who had taken a candle holder in his hand. "And if he is a demon, then why his patience is so different from the other demons that I have fought against," he asked himself as he looked at the redhead. Placing his sword in front of him, he ran out towards his enemy. When he was close to this, he moved his sword and tried a horizontal cut, but the only thing he managed to cut was the pedestal of candles that the boy had in his hands. After that, he moved his sword again, but he never expected that redhead swiveled swiftly in the air and hit him in the face again, which caused him to crash into Rias' banks, causing them to break. Seeing the boy on the floor, Naruto ran towards him before he tried to get up. Surrounding him, he took him by the right leg and crashed him face to the ground. Pressing his foot strongly against the boy's head, he took his tail and he squeezed it tightly, which caused the boy to stop fighting and give a faint cry of pain. "As I supposed it," Naruto spoke as he looked at his opponent on the ground. "You are not completely human, but you are not a demon either. You are a mixture between them," he said while ignoring the fact that his hand was burning for him. Fire that was in the boy's tail. "Shut up, I'm not like you, I'm not like that. Filthy demons that destroyed this place and killed my father," he said in his voice a little drowned. He could feel his forces slowly leaving him. "Were the demons that destroyed this place the same as the one you destroyed this morning?" Naruto asked as he looked at the boy on the floor, who was silent and only clenched his fists tightly. Sighing, the redhead again clenched the boy's tail, making him complain annoyance. The blue-haired boy gave a grunt of pain when he felt the redhead squeeze his tail a little more. He could also feel his strength leaving him. "Yes, the demons that destroyed this place and killed my father were the same as the one I destroyed. I will destroy all the demons and then I will destroy Satan," he said in a voice full of hatred and resentment. Naruto raised one of his eyebrows again when he heard the last part, ending with Satan. Apparently the boy did not know anything about the current underworld. Looking at the boy, he saw that he was strong and that he could become stronger if someone trained him well and taught him to use his powers well. "Well, I have bad news for you. The one you saw was not only a demon but a parasitic demon who abandoned his master and became corrupt. That's why his appearance is like that. But I am instead a blood demon, pure and a very strong one, and I don't want to hurt you, so I will release you only if you promise not to attack me," the redhead said seriously. The boy turned his face and saw the look of the redhead. He saw that he had a dangerous look on his face and that he would not hesitate to kill him. He knew that the boy was stronger than him, and that he also had to lose already, that the boy knew his weak point, while he knew nothing about his opponent. So nodding, he assured the redhead that he wouldn't attack him. "Good," Naruto said before releasing him. Taking a leap backwards, he moved away at a distance from the boy. The boy might say he wouldn't attack him, but it didn't hurt to be cautious. "Now, because we don't start over, my name is Naruto Gremory and I am a high-class demon," said the redhead as he introduced himself to the boy. "My name is Rin Okamura, and I am, well, I don't know what I really am," he said while looking at the redhead. He wasn't lying to him, since he really didn't know what he was. Nobody ever he told him who his biological parents were or where he came from or his powers, and the only person who knew all that was now dead for trying to protect him from demons who wanted to kill him. "It is a pleasure," I arranged, Okamura-san. "In terms of what you are, I would say that you are a half-human, half-demon. But unlike the other human half-demon, you are something more primitive," he spoke as he looked at the boy's tail. "I only say it because of the fact that you have a tail, and the demons, we stopped having a tail for many centuries since they represented a great weak point for us," Naruto said as he crossed his arms. "Another thing that intrigues me about you is your powers. Your powers are very similar to those of the Phoenix family, but I am 100% sure that you are not one of them. Another thing that makes me doubt that they are a phoenix is, apart from your fire being blue, this is also more powerful than that of a phoenix, and I don't know why, but I think I've seen it somewhere," Naruto said, fascinated by the boy and his powers. He didn't know where, but if I remembered that he had seen that fire somewhere. "You are a very peculiar person, Okamura-san. Peculiar and fascinating, which makes me wonder that you are really Rin Okamura, a half-demon human or a half-human demon," the redhead said while looking the boy straight in the eye. Seeing that the boy in front of him really didn't want to fight, Rin sat on a nearby bench. Sighing, he ran his hand over his head before speaking. "As I told you before, I don't even know what I am. The only person who knew that or who I am died protecting me from a parasitic devil. Now I don't have anyone to stay with. I don't know if I have a family member alive, so I decided to stay in this place and put an end to all the demons he found in order to make me stronger and be able to defeat Satan, he said, making the redhead laugh a little. What's so funny? He asked as he looked at the redhead. Listening to the annoying tone of Naruto, boy stopped laughing and placed a serious look on his face. Sorry about that. It really wasn't my intention to laugh, but I can't help it. Is that listening to you say those things makes me funny, he said before taking a bench and using it to sit down. After that he looked at the boy in front of him directly in the eyes. Tell me, Okumura-san, that you know so much about demons and the underworld, or hell as you humans call it? Rin looked at the redhead with a curious look on his face. But seeing the serious look that the boy had, he decided to answer. The boy in front of him may be the answer to many of his questions. Apart from what I've heard from the Bible, I don't know anything else. I was never interested in any of that, at least not until the demon attacked this place. I see, Naruto said as he nodded. Now he understood why it was that the boy had so little information about the underworld, even though he was a half-demon, although he could not blame him since the church still uses the scripture of the Bible to make them see them as demons who enjoyed making sinners suffer in hell and all those things. First of all, let me tell you that everything you've heard about hell is not true. Everything the Bible says about us demons is wrong. We demons have evolved a lot since the era of the first demons. We are no longer those beings described in the Bible, and I sincerely believe that we never were. Other things you should know is that Lucifer, or Satan as you call it, no longer exists. The first Lucifer died thousands of years ago, and currently the name of Lucifer is only used to name the strongest demon and the leader of our entire race. Naruto spoke as he told him about the basic history of his race. Rin's eyes widened in surprise. He never imagined anything that the redhead in front of him was saying. Looking at his eyes, he saw that everything he had said was the complete truth. He did not see not a single pinch of deception in his eyes. So you mean that everything I've been doing all this time has been useless? You mean that all the demons I destroyed were for nothing? He asked as he bowed his head a little. Unfortunately, yes, Naruto said as he looked at him. Most likely, the demons that killed these people have already been eliminated by someone else. But they may still be alive, he said, making Rin raise his head a little hopefully. All of that depends on the level of power that they had in the family to which this territory belongs. But most likely this whole territory belongs to the church and the angels. So it is very possible that they are still alive, which Tada, so it is very likely that you can still find them and thus fulfill your long-awaited revenge. Taking a pause, the redhead began to remember his fight against the blue-haired boy. But with your current level of power, I doubt that you can beat them on your own. Most likely if you go after them you end up being killed, Naruto said simply. He knew that nothing was earned by lying to the boy. He was strong, yes, but he was not as strong as he thought. He also doubted that the demons that killed these people are weak demons, and if they were as many as he thought, then the boy would end up dead and possibly eaten. Rin clenched his fists tightly as he listened to the redhead. He knew that he was strong and that he did not have the power to defeat those demons, but that was not why he would stay idly by. He would marry them and kill them, even if the last thing he does. Looking at the redhead, he gave her a challenging look. Yes, and that, it doesn't matter if they are much stronger than me or that they are much more than I will defeat them, even if that tells me life. So I don't care if I die, they will all pay with their lives to kill my father and my friends. A small smile appeared on the redhead's face as he looked at the fire in Rin's eyes. He knew that with a little more power and training the boy could be a person to fear. With good training and good guidance he could be a very powerful demon, and he would make sure that happens. He will take care of Rin joining his nobility and becoming stronger than he has dreamed. So smiling a little more he spoke. Tell me, Okumura-san, what would you say if I told you that I can make you very powerful? What would you do if you knew that I could give you the power you need to avenge your friends? Rin looked at the redhead in front of him with a wary look on his face. I would say what the trap is, he said, making Naruto's smile widen a little more. Nobody is giving away power without receiving anything in return, so what is the trap? What do you gain in all this? He said seriously. You are a very intelligent person, Okumura-san, and I like that. Naruto spoke while creating a small blackish red sphere in his right hand. But you're right. As everything in life, nothing is free and everything has its pros and cons, so to get the power that I'm promising you would have to become a half-demon, the redhead said as he looked at the boy, which still had its active powers. Well, in your case it would be to complete you and become a complete demon, since apparently you are a half-demon of birth. Are you saying that for me to get the put I need, I have to become a thing like the one that attacked my friends? He asked as he looked at him a little angry. He would never agree to turn into a thing like that. Before he would rather die than become a creature as horrifying as that. Shaking his head, the heir Gremory spoke. To begin with, those demons that attacked this place, and the ones you have been facing, are demon parasitos, demons that betrayed their leader to act on their own, and as punishment they ended up that way. But if you agree to become a demon, your appearance will not change at all. You will remain the same as always. I see, Rin said as he placed his hand under his chin while thinking about what the redhead was telling him. The offer was tempting, but he wasn't after accepting to become a demon without knowing all the good or bad points about it. Looking at the boy in silence, the redhead decided to speak. He was not a person with much patience. His mother had always told him that would bring him many problems, but he never paid attention. So what do you say, Okumura-san? Do you accept or not? Naruto asked, a little hopeful that the boy accepted his offer. He saw a great power in him, power that could serve to prevent the compromise between his sister and Razor. Before responding to your proposal, I would like to know what are the benefits and consequences of becoming a devil? He asked as he looked at the redhead. The benefits of becoming a demon would be that your life could potentially be extended X and you can live hundreds of years. Another benefit of being a demon is that both your reflexes and powers will be increased. You can see in the dark so easily as in the day. Also, if you reach a certain level of power, you could get the same privileges as a high-class demon and pure blood like me. The last thing is that as a demon you would be under my protection and that of my family Naruto, he said, making the boy nod. And the consequences, he asked? The consequences would be that as a demon you will not be able to step on a church without being affected by it. Also, objects such as crosses and water vendetta would be very lethal to you. Also, as a demon you cannot step on any land belonging to the church or to the members of the fallen angels, or else you could cause a problem among all of us, he said as he looked at the boy, who nodded again while thinking about all the benefits of being a devil. After a few minutes of thinking about the pros and cons of being a demon, Rias made a decision. So looking at the blonde, he got up from his seat before speaking. It's okay, Gremory-san accepted your offer to become a demon, he said seriously. Naruto nodded as he got up too and looked the boy straight in the eye. I'm glad to hear that, Okamura-san, and I promise you won't regret this. I speak seriously. I hope so, Rin said seriously. So, since I become a devil, I have to do a satanic ritual or something like that, he asked, making Naruto smile. 1,000,000 years ago that may have been necessary, but there are currently easier ways to turn a person into a demon, he said as he extended his right hand. Rin could do nothing but stare in amazement as a black box appeared in the redhead's hand. Opening the box, Naruto showed the content to the boy in front of him. Tell me, Okamura-san, do you know chess? Naruto asked, making him nod. Well, what I have in my hands are bad pieces which are used to turn a person into a devil, and as in normal chess there are 16 pieces. A king, which is the one that I have inside me, which makes me the leader of all. A queen, which is the second strongest and has all the attributes of all the other pieces. 2 towers that increase the resistance of the bearer. 2 bishops that increase the magic of the user. There are also 2 knights which increase the reflexes and agility of people, and finally there are the pawns that may seem the weakest pieces, but they are the only ones that have the power to increase their power. They can have the same power as a queen piece when they are in enemy territory, he said as he explained to the boy what Ajuka had said to him when he received his bad set of pieces. Rin nodded as he absorbed all the possible information. He had to say that sincerely he was absolutely amazed by these pieces. Badly in front of him, he couldn't believe that simple pieces like these had so much power, or less even, that they could revive a person and turn them into demons. If you had to choose, which one you think would be better for me? Rin asked as he looked at who would be his future leader. Staring at the boy, Naruto decided to ask him a question that has been in his head since the beginning. Tell me, Okamura-san, where your powers come from and how you make them appear, the blonde asked as he looked at the boy. Rin looked at his hand where his sword was, which was still drawn. Second, my father said before he died my powers were sealed in the sword on the day of my birth. Because of that, to be able to release them I have to unsheath, and to seal them I have to do the opposite, and only with my unsheathed sword is it that I can use my flames. Although I don't have a lot of control over them since it's only been a short time since I started using them, he said as he tried to light his hand, but the only thing he got was for his index finger to hit. See, it's impossible for me to control it well, he said as he looked at the redhead. Naruto saw this and unpublished knew what piece would be suitable for the boy. Taking one of the knight pieces, he spoke. Knowing all this, I think it would be best for you to be a knight, since the agility and speed that they grant to their wearer would combine perfectly with your use of the sword, he said, making the boy nod. Well, you just have to lie on the floor while I take care of the rest, he said, and a few seconds later the redhead was on the body of the black-haired boy who had sealed his powers. But the redhead had noticed that even with the heath still had his tail. He only knew that only the old demons had tails, so their powers must come from some ancient demon. So he would have to investigate, and little find out that demon was a bearer of blue flames. But if forgetting that for now, he started with the ritual that his mother had taught him. By my name, Naruto Gremory, I order you, Rin Okamura, to be reborn as a devil, as a new member of my family, to live a long and happy life, Naruto said before dropping the piece on Rin's chest. The redhead's eyes widened slightly when he saw that the piece sank halfway before it shot out toward his hand again. Impossible, this is not possible, he said as he looked at the piece in his hand. What happens, Gremory-san? It didn't work, because if so, I don't feel different, Rin said as she felt the same as always. He couldn't feel that something had changed inside him. It didn't work. Apparently your power is too big for one piece to work, he said before taking the other knight piece and repeating the ritual again. As soon as the term and the 2 pieces sank into the body of Rin, the tube to take a couple of steps back and cover his face to avoid burning or being blinded by the intense tornado of blue fire that surrounded the boy on the ground. Turning around, Naruto ran out of the church when the tornado of fire began to expand and consume everything in its path. The tornado of fire quickly consumed the entire church and threatened to continue expanding all over the place, so to prevent that from happening, Naruto created a magical barrier around the fire to prevent it from moving forward. For several minutes the fire continued until it slowly disappeared. When the fire went out completely, Naruto walked towards Rin's body and could not help but be surprised by what he saw. Rin's body looked like it had grown a few more centimeters. His body musculature also increased, just like his hair, which grew a little more. The tail that was previously only on the tip was now completely covered with blue fire, while 2 fire wings were on his back. Looking into the boy's eyes, he saw that these seemed a little brighter, but that was only for a few seconds before returning to his normal color. Looking at the Naruto boy, I speak. How do you feel, Okumura-san? Looking at his hands, Rin spoke. I feel good, I have never felt better, he said as the fire surrounding his body began to disappear. So this is what it feels like to be a demon, he said as he looked at his new body. Looking at his hand, he saw that he still had his sword drawn, but his body was not setting on fire, as it always happened when he unsheathed it. What happened? What happened to my powers? Why are they not active? Naruto stared at the boy for a few seconds before speaking. Appearing your new state allows you to unsheath your sword without activating your powers. Most likely that is due to your new state as a devil, and as I see, you can now use your fire at will. So close your eyes and imagine that your hand is on fire. Rin nodded before fulfilling the order of his new leader, closing his eyes, trying to block all the sound around him and only concentrated on his hand. A few seconds later he felt something warm and opened his eyes only to discover that everything his body was covered in his blue fire. Naruto saw this and sighed a little disappointed. Apparently things would not be as easy as he thought. But if everything in life were so easy, it would be very boring. It seems you need to be able to train a little to be able to control your powers well, he said as he looked at the boy covered in fire. Fortunately for you, I can teach you several exercises that I learned from my mother and my older brother who helped me control my power. But for that we have to leave here, since it is only a matter of time before someone comes to have to. It was what happened here, he said as he looked at the remains of the church, which had ended up being nothing but burned debris. Rin turned and a sad look landed on his face as he looked at the remains of the church where he lived all his life. He saw that there was nothing left that could be saved. Looking at his sword, he saw that apart from the memories, this was the only thing left of his father. Yes, I also think we should leave. There's nothing here that can be useful to me, he said as he walked to the redhead. And now what do I have to call you, my master, Naruto-sama, or how? He asked as they both began to walk away from the burned church. They could already hear the firefighters and police approaching them. Naruto, only Naruto is fine. After all, you and I are friends, he said, making the boy nod. Friends, Rin said while looking at the boy. For Naruto, he would be the first friend he would have in his life, since the other boys have always avoided him. He never knew it was to have friends and stuff. Then you can call me Rin, Naruto, he said before they both disappeared into the forest. Why do we always have to end up fighting upset Naruto people? Rin asked while hiding behind an abandoned building to avoid being killed by his enemy. It had been a year since he met the redhead and became part of his nobility and his family. During that year many things had happened, both good and bad. One of them was that the redhead had taught him several exercises to control better his powers, and thanks to that he was now able to use them at his will whenever he wanted. Of course he still didn't have complete control over his blue flames, but he now knew how to use them to fight whenever he wanted. Another thing that had happened was that during that time it was that he and Naruto got a new nobility companion, a powerful black dragon named Drogon. They had run into the dragon by chance when Naruto had taken him to get a familiar to be his companion in battles, in his errands and other things where he had to use it. While he was looking for his ideal relative, he and the redhead found the dragon sleeping in the area where the most dangerous animals were from all over the forest. As soon as he felt his presence, he proceeded to attack them both without any warning. After 2 hours of running for their lives, fighting the dragon who didn't seem to feel any of the attacks they were throwing at him and preventing him from killing them, was that the dragon seemed to calm down a bit, and proceeded to ask Naruto why in himself he found himself invading his entire domain. After the dragon asked that and the redhead answered him and explained his motive, the dragon said he had a deal for Naruto. He told the Gremory that if he did, they bleed, even if it was a bit, he would not just let him hover in his domain, but he would also join them. And of course Naruto accepted with a smile on his face. Rin could still clearly remember the brutal battle that the dragon and the redhead had. The battle lasted almost 3 hours, and at the end of this Naruto had fallen unconscious by the exhaustion of using both his magic, but not before causing him a scratch in one of Drogon's legs from which the dragon was bleeding. After that, and after the redhead woke up, the dragon kept his word and joined the Gremory, who at first was only like him as a relative, but after thinking it well he knew that the dragon's power was too great for him to be only his relative. So he decided to make him a member of his nobility. So invoking his bad set of pieces, the redhead had to use 4 of his pawns, including a mutant. He had to turn Drogon into a member of his nobility, and a dragon with demonic powers. After that, and that Rin got his family member, who was a very strong and incredible one, the three decided to continue on their way in search of new partners. This road took them to Spain, where they heard the rumors about a witch with incredible powers. They were a little surprised when the named witch turned out to be a girl of the same age who seemed to have very incredible and powerful abilities. Naruto jumped to prevent a sword from cutting his legs. Taking another that wanted to cut it in two, he used to block a third that came through his head. Pointing his hand towards his opponent, he launched a powerful jet of his power of destruction which destroyed barium swords and almost to his rapporteur if he had not moved in time. After that he hid again behind a building to avoid Rias swords more than they came for him. Turning his face to his right side, he looked at his only gentleman. "Hey, I didn't mean to fight her," he said before jumping and hiding behind another wall. "Besides, it was you who asked her if she is the crazy witch that everyone was talking about," he finished while looking at who was becoming his best friend. In the short period of a year they had both become very strong, especially with the training routine that Drogon had imposed on them. A routine so brutal that it almost made their body wants to explode after each session. Yes, but I never thought she would react in such a violent way, Rin said before copying the blonde and moving to avoid the endless swords of the girl they were fighting against. The amount of swords she could create and use when at the same time it was almost unreal. They had almost half an hour dodging swords and they still hadn't planted a blow on their female opponent. You two could stop arguing and concentrate on what really matters right now, said Drogon, who was in his human form. Appearing behind the silver-haired girl, he clenched his fists and placed them in front of each other. Then of that he placed them both in front of his mouth, making it appear that he was playing a trumpet. As soon as he did that, he began to inhale heavily, and with a strong exhalation a large black fireball shot out of his mouth in the direction of the girl. But before the fireball could hit her, a wall of swords appeared behind she and protected her. "Tch, those things are annoying," he said as he pulled out his wings and threw himself against the girl for a more direct attack. The girl they were fighting against turned and pointed the gun at the boy behind her. Pulling the trigger, she unleashed a large number of bullets which were easily dodged by the dark-skinned boy. "Surrender, you can never win against me," the girl said as she placed her sword on her weapon as if it were a violin. "The 20th movement of the cosmos. Mimic factor," she said as she moved her sword over her weapon as if it were indeed a violin. Naruto and Rin's eyes widened when a fireball twice as large as the two of them together apparently came out of nowhere and launched themselves against them. Pulling out their wings, both demons threw themselves into the sky to avoid the huge colored fireball black which had incinerated them had not moved. "That was Sararrgg," Naruto shouted when a sword suddenly appeared and his right shoulder was embedded. The redhead looked at the sword on his shoulder before looking up at the girl who was smiling at him. "Well, you want to play rough, then let's play rough," he said before placing his hand on the sword and making it disappear. "I just wanted to talk to you and offer you a place in my group, but I see that that will not be possible, at least not for good," he said before using her wings and throwing herself against the white-haired girl. Ignoring the wound on his right shoulder, Naruto threw a right hand against the girl which blocked it, forming a wall of swords in front of her. Growling a little, the redhead created a destruction ball in the palm of his hand and began to destroy the swords quickly. After managing to destroy all the swords, he turned and kicked the girl's stomach, causing her to fly backwards at high speed. The redhead narrowed his eyes when the girl turned in air before sticking her sword on the ground and using it to stop. "You're strong, I admit it," she said as she straightened and gave the redhead a smile. "Thank you, you are too." Naruto spoke sincerely. Apart from Drogon, he had not fought against someone so strong in a long time. Not even Rin was so strong. "My name is Naruto Gremory, and yours is what?" he asked, looking at the girl who was not only strong, but also beautiful. Altair Shimazaki," she said as she bowed in a bow and took off the big military hat she had on her head. "Altair, huh? That's a very pretty name, just like its carrier," he said, making a small red powder appear on the girl's face. "You are very flattering, you knew it," she said with a small smile, a smile that disappeared when she saw the redhead's companions running towards them. "You two get in my way, so don't get in the way is this," she said before using her swords to create a dome that prevented Rin and Drogon from approaching her or Naruto. "Now that we are alone and in a more private environment, because you and I don't talk a little," he said as he put the smile back on his face. "Talk?" Naruto asked as he looked at the girl in front of him, who nodded. "Now you want to talk to me? I thought you just wanted to kill us," he said, remembering everything that had happened and the times she was about to kill him with her swords. Licking her lips, she looked at the redhead before speaking. "Oh, make no mistake, my dear. I will kill them all," she said, making the redhead frown a little. "I just want to hear everything you have to say before I decide to eliminate you and your friends completely." Naruto's gaze was fixed on the girl in front of him. He saw the fun dancing in her eyes. He also saw something else, something he could not decipher. "You know that what you have as beautiful you have as arrogant too," the Gremory said with his eyes narrowed towards the girl. He would worry later to discover that it was that other than he saw in her eyes. For now he only had to concentrate on the fight that was about to break out between them. "And that's a lot, by the way, since you're very beautiful." Altair only smiled as he watched as the redhead's friends tried to destroy his great wall of swords, but all his attempts were resulting in being somewhat useless since she was using a large part of her magical power to create the most powerful sword she has created throughout his life so he could prevent the redhead's companions from entering and ruining the fun she was about to have with the boy. "It is not arrogance when you have the power to support your words, and as you can see around me I have power to spare," he said before moving his hand and causing several swords to fall around the redhead, who did not move or flinched a little, all that only caused Altair's smile to expand a bit. "Now tell me, demon, what do you want with me? Why are you and your friends behind me?"